So we're live. We're doing a doll's
You're
house.
live.
Yeah. No, we're not
It's gotta
doing
be.
live right now.
No? Oh, just recording.
Yeah, we're just recording.
We're live to
Um,
tape.
so I will start. My name is Brooke Butterworth. I started Acting United. And if you guys want to go around and introduce yourself, say something that you're working on, and just talk about what you do. So I've been acting for almost 10 years now. Right now I'm doing it part-time, want to be full-time. Cool stuff. I love this company because we help people practice acting and encourage them. So we're doing a doll's house today, and I guess we can go in alphabetical order for what character you're playing. So next person would be Dr. Rank.
Okay. Hello, Miguel Rodriguez. And I am a voice actor. I've been in the voice acting business for about too many years. Actually began audiobooks in 2013. Currently working on a 7-title series that's about to wrap as soon as the audio engineer gets me the last files. 17 chapters. We're on number 14. So by I would imagine before November is over, this book will be a wrap. And so it will be on the shelves and available as a stocking stuffer for Christmas, The Tales of Trailetus. So yes, doing some voice work, about to launch into more voice work with a great coach out of Canada. And just excited about doing the voice acting thing, and really happy to be here doing the play reads with Acting United.
And how do we get your books that you've narrated, Miguel?
Well, you can Google, or rather you can search my name, Miguel Rodriguez, on audible.com. The books that are out there are available on audible.com. They're available on iTunes, and they're available on amazon.com. So this last series, The Tales of Trailetus, written by Wally Larson Jr. and narrated by yours truly, Miguel Rodriguez.
Awesome. So next, I guess, would be, we'll go with Nils Krogstad.
All right. Well, my name is Duran Smith. I have been acting since 2003, so 18 years now. Not consistently, not as a career, although that would be lovely. But I do have a bachelor's degree in film production and a minor in theater performance. So I focused on acting for my minor. I absolutely love acting on the stage or on camera. And I am interested in the philosophy of art and the philosophy of beauty. And so I tend to analyze things very closely. I spent 2 years in Los Angeles studying film production and acting. Really loved it. Tried to make myself known on the LA scene. Didn't really work out too well, but I did make some good friends there. And now I live here in Atlanta, and I really love it here. Looking to get back into acting soon. I've done a little bit of voice acting, a little bit of voice work, none that's made me any tons amount of money, but I do love it. And so I really look forward to being with y'all tonight.
Thanks for introducing yourself, Duran. Natasha, who's playing Nora, you can go ahead.
Hello, I am Natasha Myrick. I have been acting on and off for quite a while, many years, mostly on stage though. So on camera is something new in just the past few years for me. And when it comes to even on stage work, I have worked mostly behind the scenes as a director, or specifically a vocal director for all different kinds of musicals and children's theater. And I do modeling. And what I'm currently working on as well is voiceover work. And I just got a voiceover coach. It's been a lot of fun. It's very different, very challenging than anything I've ever done. So much fun. It's really what I want to do. I teach and coach a lot. That's pretty much it, I guess.
Cool stuff. Mrs. Linden.
Hi, I'm Bina Sebastian. I have no idea what I'm doing in the group of these talented actors because I am not that. I have no connection to acting, voiceover, nothing.
And how did you get in the group, Banu? How?
You, you.
You do have connections.
Yes, all my friends are very talented, extremely talented actors. So I am a software engineer working for an Indian IT company here. I met all these wonderful friends through church. And that is how I got roped into this program for this event. So what is the word you use for that? I don't even know the technical terms, okay? So the live play, yes. That's it about me.
Gabe?
Hello, everybody. I am Gabe Chandler. I have been acting off and on, I think, most consistently since about 2009, which was my senior year of high school. Got my start in musicals. I've done most of my work on stage, like Natasha. I'm a big musicals, opera, stage theater kind of a guy. So film acting isn't something I've done a whole lot of, but whenever I've done it, I've really enjoyed it. Moved to Atlanta a little over a year and a half ago now to pursue voice acting specifically as well. Haven't been able to do a whole lot in that regard yet, but I'm working towards that slowly but surely, taking whatever I can get. Joined Acting United because I love all the people in this group. And I love, getting to read plays. It's a fun thing, fun way to test the acting chops and get myself out there and stretch myself in ways that I don't normally get to, I guess you could say, on stage.
Awesome. And I'm Brooke Butterworth. I'll be your narrator for tonight, and two small children, along with Duran, who will be one of the small children. And I'll also be playing some random servants who aren't so random in Ibsen's world. But Ibsen is a mastermind when it comes to realism. And I encourage you to look or listen, I would say, throughout the play for his stage directions, because his stage directions, hey, Banu. You're good. Banu almost fell off the edge of the world.
The earth is flat.
His stage directions are really a large part of showing character motivation too, and the inner life of the characters, and maybe like giving some hints as to their inner thoughts and feelings. So it's really interesting. Ibsen is a realism writer, and I'm very excited to do this play. Let's go. Let's start. A Doll's House, Act 1. A room comfortably and tastefully, but not expensively furnished. In the background, to the right, a door leads to the hall. To the left, another door leads to Helmer's study. Between the two doors, a pianoforte. In the middle of the left wall, a door, and nearer the front, a window. Near the window, a round table with armchairs and a small sofa. In the right wall, somewhat to the back, a door, and against that same wall, further forward, a porcelain stove. In front of it, a couple of armchairs and a rocking chair. Between the stove and the side door, a small table. Engravings on the walls, and a whatnot with china and bric-a-brac, a small bookcase of showily bound books, carpet, a fire in the stove, a winter day. A bell rings in the hall outside. Presently, the outer door is heard to open. Then Nora enters, humming contentedly. She is in outdoor dress and carries several parcels, which she lays on the right-hand table. She leaves the door into the hall, open behind her, and a porter is seen outside carrying a Christmas tree and a basket, which she gives to the maidservant, who has opened the door.
Hide the Christmas tree carefully, Ellen. The children mustn't see it before this evening when it's lighted up. How much?
50 or.
There's a crown. No, keep the change.
The porter thanks her and goes. Nora shuts the door. She continues smiling quietly as she takes off her walking things. Then she takes from her pocket a bag of macaroons and eats one or two. As she does so, She goes on tiptoe to her husband's door and listens.
Yes, he is at home.
She begins humming again, going to the table on the right. Helmer in his room.
That my lark twittering out there?
Yes, it is.
Busy
Is
opening
that-
some of her parcels.
Is that the squirrel skipping about?
Yes,
When did the squirrel get home?
just this minute.
Hides the bag of macaroons in her pocket and wipes her mouth.
Come here, Torvald, and see what I've bought.
Don't disturb me.
A little later, he opens the door and looks in, pen in hand.
But, did you say? What, all that? Has my little spendthrift been making the money fly again?
Why, Torvald, surely we can afford to launch out a little now. It's the first Christmas we haven't had to pinch.
Come, we can't afford to squander money.
Oh, yes, Torvald, but do let us squander a little. Just the least little bit, won't you? You know you'll soon be earning heaps of money.
Yes, from New Year's Day, but there's a whole quarter before my first salary is due.
Never mind. We can borrow in the meantime.
Nora,
He goes up to her and takes her playfully by the ear.
thoughtless as ever. I mean, suppose I borrowed 1,000 crowns today, and you spent it during Christmas week, and that on New Year's Eve a tile blew off the roof and knocked my brains out.
Hush.
Laying a hand on his mouth.
How can you talk so horridly?
But supposing it were to happen, what then?
If anything so dreadful happened, I shouldn't care whether I was in debt or not.
What about all those creditors?
They? Who cares for them? They're only strangers.
Nora, what a woman you are. Seriously, Nora, you know my ideas on these points. No debts, no credit. Home life ceases to be free and beautiful as soon as it's founded on borrowing and debt. We too have held out bravely until now, and we won't give in at the last.
Nora going to the fireplace.
Very well, as you like, Torvald.
Helmer following her.
Come. A little lark mustn't let her wings droop like that. What is the squirrel pouting there?
Takes out his purse.
Nora, what do you think I've got here?
Turning around quickly, Nora.
Money?
There.
Gives her some notes. Notes.
Of course, I know all sorts of things are wanted at Christmas.
Nora counting.
10, 20, 30, 40. Oh, thank you, Torvald. This will go a long way.
I should hope so.
Yes, indeed, a long way. But come here and see all I've been buying. And so cheap, look. Here's a new suit for Ivar and a little sword. Here are a horse and a trumpet for Bob. And here are a doll and a cradle for Emmy. They're only common, but she'll soon pull them all to pieces. And dresses and neckties for the servants. Only should have got something better for dear old Anna.
What's in that other parcel?
Nora crying out.
No, Torvald, you're not to see that until this evening.
But now tell me, you little rogue, what have you got for yourself?
For myself? Oh, I didn't want anything.
Nonsense. Just tell me something sensible you would like to have.
No, really. I want nothing. Well, listen, Torvald.
Well,
Nora playing with his coat buttons without looking him in the face.
If you really want to give me something, you might,
well, out with it.
Nora quickly.
You might give me money, Torvald. Only just what you think you can spare. Then I can buy myself something with it later.
But Nora.
Oh, please do, dear Torvald, please do. Then I would hang the money in lovely gilt paper on the Christmas tree. Wouldn't that be fun?
What do they call the birds that are always making the money fly?
Yes, I know. Spendthrifts, of course. But please do as I say, Torvald. Then I shall have time to think what I want most. Isn't that very sensible now?
Helmer smiling.
Certainly. That is to say, if you really kept the money I gave you and really bought yourself something with it. But it all goes in housekeeping and for all sorts of useless things, and then I have to find more.
But Torvald.
Can you deny it, Nora dear?
He puts his arm around her.
It's a sweet little lark, but it gets through a lot of money. No one would believe how much it costs a man to keep such a little bird as you.
For shame. How can you say so? Why, I save as much as I can.
Nothing.
Very true, as much as you can, but you can't.
Comes and smiles in quiet satisfaction.
You should just know, Torvald, what expenses we larks and squirrels have.
You're a strange little being. Just like your father, always eager to get a hold of money, but the moment you have it, it seems to slip through your fingers. You never know what becomes of it. Well, one must take you as you are. It's in the blood. Yes, Nora, that sort of thing is inherited.
I wish I had inherited many of my father's qualities.
And I don't wish you anything but just what you are. My own sweet little songbird. But I say it strikes me you look so what shall I call it? So suspicious today.
Do I?
You do indeed. Well, look me full in the face.
Nora looking at him,
Well,
threatening with his finger.
Hasn't the little sweet tooth been breaking the rules today?
no, how could you think of such a thing?
Didn't she just look in at the confectioner? Didn't she just look in at the confectioners?
No, Torvald.
Not
Really?
not about to sip a little jelly?
No, certainly not.
Hasn't she even nibbled a macaroon or two?
No, Torvald, indeed. Indeed.
Of course, I'm only joking.
Nora goes to the table on the right.
I shouldn't think of doing what you disapprove of.
No, I'm sure of that. And besides, you've given me your word.
Going towards her.
Well, keep your little Christmas secrets to yourself, Nora, darling. Christmas tree will bring them all to light, I dare say.
Have you remembered to ask Dr. Rank?
No. But it's not necessary. He'll come as a matter of course. Besides, I shall invite him when he looks in today. I've ordered some capital wine. Nora, you can't think how I look forward to this evening.
And I too. How the children will enjoy themselves, Torvald.
So glorious to feel that one has an assured position and ample means. Isn't it delightful to think of?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Do you remember last Christmas? For 3 whole weeks beforehand, you shut yourself up until long past midnight to make flowers for that Christmas tree and all sorts of other marvels that were to have astonished us. I was never so bored in my life.
I did not bore myself at all.
Helmer smiling.
It gave me so little after all, Nora.
Oh, are you going to tease me about that again? And how could I help the cat getting in and spoiling it all?
To be sure, you couldn't, my poor little Nora. You did your best to amuse us all, and that's the main thing. But all the same, it's a good thing the hard times are over.
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
Now I needn't sit here boring myself all alone, and you needn't tire your dear eyes and your delicate little fingers.
Nora clapping her hands.
No, I needn't, need I, Torvald? Oh, it's wonderful to think of.
Takes his arm.
And now I'll tell you how I think we ought to manage Torvald. As soon as Christmas is over,
The hall door bell rings.
oh, there's a ring.
Arranging the room.
That's somebody come to call. How vexing.
I'm not at home to callers. Remember that.
Ellen in the doorway. A lady to see you, ma'am.
Show her in.
Ellen to Helmer. And the doctor's just come, sir.
Has he gone to my study?
Yes, sir. Helmer goes to his study. Ellen ushers in Mrs. Linden in traveling costume and shuts the door behind her. Mrs. Linden timidly and hesitantly,
How do you do, Nora?
nor doubtfully.
How do you do?
I dare say you don't recognize me.
No. I don't think. Oh, yes. I believe.
Effusively.
What? Christina, is it really you?
Yes, really me.
Christina, and to think I didn't know you. But how could I?
More softly.
How changed you are, Christina.
Yes, no doubt. In 9 or 10 years.
Is it really so long since we met? Yes, so it is. Oh, the last 8 years have been a happy time, I can tell you. And now you have come to town? All that long journey in midwinter? How brave of you.
I arrived by this morning's steamer.
To keep Christmas, of course. Oh, how delightful. What fun we shall have. Take your things off. Aren't you frozen?
Helping her.
There. Now we'll sit down here cozily by the fire. No, you take the armchair. I'll sit in this rocking chair.
Seizes her hands.
Yes, now I can see the dear old face again. It was only at first glance, but you're a little paler, Christina, and perhaps a little thinner.
And much, much older, Nora.
Yes, perhaps a little older. Not much, ever so little.
She suddenly stops, seriously.
Oh, what a thoughtless wretch I am. Here I sit chattering on and dear, dear Christina, can you forgive me?
What do you mean, Nora?
Nora softly.
Poor Christina. I forgot. You are a widow?
Yes, my husband died 3 years ago.
I know. I saw it in the papers. Oh, believe me, Christina, I did mean to write to you, but I kept putting it off and something always came in the way.
I can quite understand that, Nora dear.
No, Christina, it was horrid of me. Oh, you poor darling. How much you must have gone through. And he left you nothing?
Nothing.
And no children?
None.
Nothing. Nothing at all?
Not even a sorrow or a longing to dwell upon.
Nora looking at her incredulously.
My dear Christina, how is that possible?
Mrs. Linden smiling sadly and stroking her hair.
Oh, it happens sometimes, Nora.
So utterly alone. How dreadful that must be. I have 3 of the loveliest children. I can't show them to you just now. They're out with their nurse. But now you must tell me everything.
No. I want you to tell me.
No, you must begin. I won't be egotistical today. Today I will think of you only. Oh, I must tell you one thing. But perhaps you've heard of our great stroke of fortune.
No, what is it?
Only think. My husband has been made manager of the Joint Stock Bank.
Your husband? Oh, how fortunate.
Yes, isn't it? A lawyer's position is so uncertain. You see, especially when he won't touch any business that's the least bit shady, as of course Torvald won't. And in that I quite agree with him. Oh, you can imagine how glad we are. He is to enter on his new position at the new year, and then he will have a large salary and percentages. In future, we shall be able to live quite differently, just as we please, in fact. Oh, Christina, I feel so light and happy. It's splendid to have lots of money and no need to worry about things, isn't it?
Yes, it must be delightful to have what you need.
No, not only what you need, but heaps of money, heaps.
Mrs. Linden smiling.
Nora, haven't you learned to reason yet? In our school days, you were a shocking little spendthrift.
Nora's quietly smiling.
Yes, Torvald says I am still.
Threatens with her finger.
But Nora is not so silly as you all think. Oh, I haven't had the chance to be much of a spendthrift. We have both had to work.
You too?
Yes, light, fancy work, crochet and embroidery and things of that sort.
Significantly.
And other work too. You know, of course, that Torvald left the government service when we were married. He had little chance of promotion, and of course, he required to make more money. But in the first year of our marriage, he overworked himself terribly. He had to undertake all sorts of odd jobs, and to work early and late. He couldn't stand it and fell dangerously ill. Then the doctors declared he must go to the south.
Yes, you spent a whole year in Italy, didn't you?
We did. It wasn't easy to manage, I can tell you. It was just after Ivar's birth. But of course we had to go. Oh, it was a delicious journey, and it saved Torvald's life. But it cost a frightful lot of money, Christina.
So I should think.
$1,200. 4,800 crowns. Isn't that a lot of money?
How lucky you had the money to spend.
I must tell you, we got it from father.
I see. He died just about that time, didn't he?
Yes, Christina. Just then. And only think, I couldn't go and nurse him. I was expecting little Ivar's birth daily, and then I had my Torvald to attend to. Dear, kind old father. I never saw him again, Christina. Oh, that's the hardest thing I've had to bear since my marriage.
I know how fond you were of him. And then you went to Italy?
Yes, we had the money, and the doctors insisted. We started a month later.
And your husband returned completely cured?
Sound as a bell.
But the doctor...
What about him?
I thought as I came in, your servant announced the doctor...
Oh, yes, Dr. Rank. But he doesn't come as a doctor. He is our best friend and never lets a day pass without looking in. No, Torvald hasn't had an hour's illness since that time. And the children are so healthy and well, and so am I.
Jumps up and claps her hands.
Oh, Christina, it's so lovely to live and to be happy. Oh, but it's really too horrid of me. Here am I talking about nothing but my own concerns.
Sits down upon a footstool close to her and lays her arms on Christina's lap.
Oh, don't be angry with me. Now just tell me, is it really true that you didn't love your husband? What made you take him then?
My mother was then alive, bedridden and helpless. And then I had my two younger brothers to think of. I thought it my duty to accept him.
Perhaps it was. I suppose he was rich then?
Very well off, I believe. But his business was uncertain. It fell to pieces at his death, and there was nothing left.
And then?
Then I had to fight my way by keeping a shop, a little school, anything I could turn my hand to. The last 3 years have been one long struggle for me. But now it's over, Nora. My poor mother no longer needs me. She's at rest. And the boys are in business and can look after themselves.
How free your life must feel.
No, Nora, only inexpressibly empty. No one to live for.
Stands up restlessly.
That is why I couldn't bear to stay any longer in that out of the way corner. Here it must be easier to find something really worth doing, something to occupy one's thoughts. If I could only get some settled employment, some office work.
But Christina, that's so tiring. And you look worn out already. You should rather go to some watering place and rest.
Mrs. Linden going to the window.
I have no father to give me the money, Nora.
Nora rising.
Oh, don't be vexed with me.
Mrs. Linden going towards her.
My dear Nora, don't you be vexed with me. The worst of a position like mine is that it makes one bitter. You have no one to work for, yet you have to be always on the strain. You must live, and so you become selfish. When I heard of the happy change in your circumstance, can you believe it? I rejoiced more on my own account than on yours.
How do you mean? Ah, I see. You mean Torvald could perhaps do something for you.
Yes, I thought so.
And so he shall, Christina. Just you leave it all to me. I shall lead up to it beautifully. And to think of something pleasant to put him in a good humor. Oh, I should so love to do something for you.
How good of you, Nora, and doubly good in you, who knew so little of the troubles of life.
I know so little of.
Mrs. Linden smiling.
Ah, well, a little fancy work and so forth. You're a mere child, Nora.
Nora tosses her head and paces the room.
Oh, come. You mustn't be so patronizing.
No?
You're like the rest. You all think I'm fit for nothing really serious.
Well,
You think I've had no troubles in this weary world.
my dear Nora, you've just told me all your troubles.
These trifles?
Softly.
I haven't told you the great thing.
The great thing? What do you mean?
I know you look down upon me, Christina, but you've no right to. You're proud of having worked so hard and so long for your mother.
I'm sure I don't look down upon anyone, but it's true I'm both proud and glad when I remember that I was able to make my mother's last days free from care.
And you're proud to think of what you have done for your brothers.
Have I not the right to be?
Yes, surely. But now let me tell you, Christina, I too have something to be proud and glad of.
I don't doubt it. But what do you mean?
Hush, not so loud. Only think if Torvald were to hear. He mustn't, not for worlds. No one must know about it, Christina. No one but you.
Well, what can it be?
Come on, come over here.
Draws her beside her on the sofa.
Yes, I too have something to be proud and glad of. I saved Torvald's life.
Saved his life? How?
I told you about our going to Italy. Torvald would have died but for that.
Yes, and your father gave you the money.
Nora smiling.
Yes, so Torvald and everyone believes, but
But
Father didn't give us one penny. I found the money.
you? All that money?
$1,200, 4,800 crowns. What do you say to that?
My dear Nora, how did you manage it? Did you win it in the lottery?
Nora contemptuously.
In the lottery? Poof, any fool could have done that.
Then wherever did you get it from?
Hums and smiles mysteriously.
Tra la 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 la.
Of course you couldn't borrow it.
No? Why not?
Why, a wife can't borrow without her husband's consent.
Nora tosses her head.
Oh, when a wife knows a little of business and how to set about things, then.
But Nora, I don't understand.
Well, you needn't. I never said I borrowed the money. Perhaps I got it another way.
Throws herself back on the sofa.
I may have got it from some admirer. When one is so attractive as I am.
You're too silly, Nora.
Now I'm sure you're dying of curiosity, Christina.
Listen to me, Nora, dear. Haven't you been a little rash?
Nora sitting upright again.
Is it rash to save one's husband's life?
I think it was rash of you without his knowledge to...
But it would have been fatal for him to know. Can't you understand that? He was never to suspect how ill he was. The doctors came to me privately and told me that his life was in danger, that nothing could save him but a trip to the south. Do you think I didn't try diplomacy first? I told him how I longed to have a trip abroad like other young wives. I wept and prayed. I said he ought to think of my condition and not to thwart me. And then I hinted that he could borrow the money. But then, Christina, he got almost angry. He said I was frivolous and that it was his duty as a husband not to yield to my whims and fancies. So he called them. Very well, thought I, but saved you must be. And then I found the way to do it.
And did your husband never learn from your father that the money was not from him?
No, never. Father died at that very time. I meant to have told him all about it and begged him to say nothing, but he was so ill. Unhappily, it was not necessary.
And you have never confessed to your husband?
Good heavens! What can you be thinking of? Tell him? When he was such a loathing of debt? And besides, how painful and humiliating it would be for Torvald, with his manly self-reliance, to know that he owed anything to me. It would utterly upset the relation between us. Our beautiful, happy home would never again be what it was.
Will you never tell him?
Nora thoughtfully, half smiling.
Yes, sometime perhaps, after many years, when I'm not so pretty. You mustn't laugh at me. Of course, I mean when Torvald is not so much in love with me as he is now. When it doesn't amuse him any longer to see me skipping about and dressed up and acting, then it might do well to have something in reserve.
Breaking off.
Nonsense. Nonsense. That time will never come. Now, what do you say to my grand secret, Christina? Am I fit for nothing now? You may believe it has cost me a lot of anxiety. It has been no joke to meet my engagements punctually. You must know, Christina, that in business, there are things called installments and quarterly interest that are terribly hard to meet. So I had to pinch a little here and there, wherever I could. I could not save anything out of the housekeeping, for of course Torvald had to live well. And I couldn't let the children go about badly dressed. All I got for them, I spent on them, the darlings.
Poor Nora. So it had to come out of your own pocket money.
Yes, of course. After all, the whole thing was my doing. When Torvald gave me money for clothes and so on, I never used more than half of it. I always bought the simplest things. It's a mercy that everything suits me so well. Torvald never noticed anything. But it was often very hard, Christina, dear. For it's nice to be beautiful dressed. Now, isn't it?
Oh, indeed it is.
Well, and besides that, I made money in other ways. Last winter, I was so lucky. I got a heap of copying to do. I shut myself up every evening and wrote far on into the night. Oh, sometimes I was so tired. And yet it was splendid to work in a way and earn money. I almost felt as if I was a man.
Then how much have you been able to pay off?
Well, I can't precisely say. It's difficult to keep that sort of business clear. I only know that I paid off everything I could scrape together. Sometimes I really didn't know where to turn.
Smiles.
Then I used to sit here and imagine that a rich old gentleman was in love with me.
What? What gentleman?
Oh, nobody. That he was now dead, and that when his will was opened, there stood in large letters, "Pay over at once everything of which I die possessed to that charming person, Mrs. Nora Helmer."
But, dear Nora, what gentleman do you mean?
Dear, dear, can't you understand? There wasn't any old gentleman. It was only what I used to dream and dream when I was at my wits' end for money. But it's all over now. The tiresome old creature may stay where he is for me. I care nothing for him or his will, for now my troubles are over.
Springing up.
Oh, Christina, how glorious it is to think of. Free from cares. Free, quite free. To be able to play and romp about with the children, to have things tasteful and pretty in the house, exactly as Torvald likes it. And then the spring is coming with the great blue sky. Perhaps then we shall have a short holiday. Perhaps I shall see the sea again. Oh, what a wonderful thing it is to live and to be happy.
The hall doorbell rings. Mrs. Linden rising.
There is a ring. Perhaps I had better go.
No, do stay. It's sure to be someone for Torvald.
Ellen in the doorway. If you please, ma'am, there's a gentleman to speak to Mr. Helmer.
Who is the gentleman?
Krogstad in the doorway to the hall.
It is I, Mrs. Helmer.
Ellen goes. Mrs. Linden starts, recovers herself, and turns away to the window. Nora goes a step towards him, anxiously, half aloud.
You? What is it? What do you want with my husband?
Bank business, in a way. I hold a small post in the joint stock bank, and your husband is to be our new chief, I hear.
Then it is.
Only tiresome business, Mrs. Helmer. Nothing more.
Then will you please go to his study?
Krogstad goes. She bows indifferently while she closes the door into the hall. Then she goes to the fireplace and looks into the fire.
Nora? Who was that man?
A Mr. Krogstad. Do you know him?
I used to know him many years ago. He was in a lawyer's office in our town.
Yes, so he was.
How he has changed.
I believe his marriage was unhappy.
And he is now a widower?
With a lot of children. There. Now it'll burn up.
She closes the stove and pushes the rocking chair a little aside.
His business is not of the most creditable, they say.
Isn't it? I dare say not. I don't know. But don't let us think of business. It's so tiresome.
Dr. Rank comes out of Helmer's room. Rank still in the doorway.
No, no, I won't keep you. I'll just go and have a chat with your wife.
Shuts the door and sees Mrs. Linden.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I am the trop here too.
No, not in the least.
Introduces them.
Dr. Rank, Mrs. Linden.
Oh, indeed. I've often heard Mrs. Linden's name. I think I passed you on the stairs as I came up.
Yes, I go so very slowly. Stairs try me so much.
You're not very strong.
Only overworked.
Ah, then you have come to town to find rest in a round of dissipation?
I have come to look for employment.
Is that an approved remedy for overwork?
One must live, Dr. Rank.
Yes, that seems to be the general opinion.
Come, Dr. Rank. You yourself want to live.
To be sure I do. However wretched I may be, I want to drag on as long as possible, and my patients have all the same mania. It's just the same with people whose complaint is moral. At this very moment, Helmer is talking to such a wreck as I mean.
Mrs. Linden softly.
Whom do you mean?
No, a fellow named Krogstad, a man you know nothing about, corrupt to the very core of his character. But even he began, or by announcing solemnly that he must live.
Indeed. Then what did he want with Torvald?
I really don't know. I only gathered that it was some bank business.
I didn't know that this Mr. Krogstad had anything to do with the bank.
He has some sort of place there.
To Mrs. Linden.
I don't know whether in your part of the country you have people who go rooting and snuffing around in search of moral rottenness, whose policy it is to fill good places with men of tainted character whom they can keep under their eyes and in their power. The honest men, they leave out in the cold.
Well, I suppose the delicate characters require most care.
Rank shrugs his shoulders.
There we have it. It's that notion that makes society a hospital.
Nora, deep in her own thoughts, breaks into a half-stifled laughter and claps her hands.
What are you laughing at? Have you any idea what society is?
What do I care for your tiresome society? I was laughing at something else, something awfully amusing. Tell me, Dr. Rank, are all the employees at the bank dependent on Torvald now?
Is that what strikes you as awfully amusing?
Nora smiles and hums,
Never mind, never mind.
walks about the room.
Yes, it is amusing to think that Torvald has such power over so many people.
Takes the bag from her pocket.
Dr. Rank, will you have a macaroon?
Oh, dear, dear. Macaroons. I thought they were contraband here.
Yes, but Christina brought me these.
What? I?
Oh, well, don't be frightened. You couldn't possibly know that Torvald had forbidden them. The fact is, he's afraid of me spoiling my teeth. Ugh, bother, just for once. That's for you, Dr. Rank. And you too, Christina. And I'll have one at the same time, only a tiny one, or at most two. Oh dear, I am happy. There is only one thing in the world that I really want.
Well, what's that?
There's something I should so like to say in Torvald's hearing.
Then why don't you say it?
Because I daren't. It's so ugly.
Ugly.
In that case, you'd better not. But to us, you might. What is it you would like to say in Helma's hearing?
I should so love to say, damn!
Are you out of your mind?
Good gracious, Nora.
Say it. There he is.
Nora hides the macaroons.
Hush, shh, shh, shh.
Helmer comes out of his room, hat in hand, with his overcoat on his arm, going towards him.
Well, Torvald dear, have you got rid of him?
Yes, he's just gone.
May I introduce you? This is Christina, who has come to town.
Christina. Pardon me, but don't I know?
Mrs. Linden, Torvald dear. Christina Linden.
Oh,
Helmer to Mrs. Linden.
a school friend of my wife's, no doubt.
Yes, we knew each other as girls.
And only think, she has taken this long journey on purpose to speak to you.
Speak to me.
Well, not quite.
You see, Christina is tremendously clever at accounts, and she's so anxious to work under a first-rate man of business in order to learn still more.
Helmer to Mrs. Linden.
Very sensible indeed.
And when she heard you were appointed manager, it was telegraphed, you know. She started off at once and, Torvald, dear, for my sake, you must do something for Christina. Now, can't you?
It's not impossible. I presume you're a widow.
Yes.
And you already have some experience in office work?
A good deal.
Well, it's very likely I might find a place for you.
Nora clapping her hands.
There now.
You've come at a lucky moment, Mrs. Linden.
Oh, how can I thank you?
Helmer smiling.
There is no occasion.
Puts his overcoat on.
But for the present, you must excuse me.
Wait, I'll go with you.
Fetches his fur coat from the hall and warms it at the fire.
Don't be long, dear Torvald.
Only an hour, no more.
Are you going too, Christina?
Mrs. Linden putting on her walking things.
Yes, I must set about looking for lodgings.
Well, then perhaps we can go together.
Nora helping her.
What a pity we haven't a spare room for you. But it's impossible.
I shouldn't think of troubling you. Goodbye, dear Nora, and thank you for all your kindness.
Goodbye for a little while. Of course you'll come back this evening. And you too, Dr. Rank. What? If you're well enough? Of course you'll be well enough. Only wrap up warmly.
They go out talking into the hall. Outside on the stairs are heard children's voices.
There they are. There they are.
She runs to the door and opens it.
Come in. Come in.
Bends down
Oh.
and kisses the children.
My sweet darlings. Do you see them, Christina? Aren't they lovely?
Don't let stand here chattering in the draft.
Come, Mrs. Linden. Only mothers can stand such a temperature.
Dr. Rank, Helmer, and Mrs. Linden go down the stairs. Anna enters the room with the children, Nora also shutting the door.
How fresh and bright you look, and what red cheeks you have, like apples and roses.
The children talk low to her during the following.
Have you had great fun? That's splendid. Oh, really? You've been giving Emmy and Bob a ride on your sled? Both at once? Only think. Oh, why? You're quite a man, Ivar. Oh, give her to me, a little Anna. Oh, my sweet little dolly.
Takes the smallest from the nurse and dances with her.
Yes, mother will dance with Bob too. What? Did you have a game of snowballs? Oh, I wish I'd been there. No, leave them, Anna. I'll take their things off. Oh, yes, let me do it. It's such fun. Go to the nursery. You look frozen. You'll find some hot coffee on the stove.
The nurse goes into the room on the left. Nora takes off the children's things and throws them down anywhere, while the children talk to each other and to her.
Really? A big dog ran after you all the way home? But he didn't bite you? No, dogs don't bite dear little dolly children. Don't peep in those parcels, Ivar. What is it? Wouldn't you like to know? Oh, take care. It'll bite. What? Shall we have a game? What shall we play at? Hide and seek. Yes, let's play hide and seek. Bob shall hide first. Am I to? Yes, let me hide first.
She and the children play with laughter and shouting in the room and the adjacent one to the right. At last, Nora hides under the table. The children come rushing in, look for her, but cannot find her. Hear her half-choked laughter, rush to the table, lift up the cover, and see her. Loud shouts. She creeps out as though to frighten them. Fresh shouts. Meanwhile, there has been a knock at the hall door. No one has heard it. Now the door is half opened and Krogstad is seen. He waits a little. The game is renewed.
I beg your pardon, Mrs. Helmer.
Nora, with a suppressed cry, turns around and half jumps up.
What do you want?
Excuse me, the outer door was ajar. Somebody must have forgotten to shut it.
Nora standing up.
My husband is not at home, Mr. Krogstad.
I know it.
Then what do you want here?
To say a few words to you.
To me?
To the children softly.
Go into Anna. What? No, The strange man won't hurt Mama. When he's gone, we'll go on playing.
She leads the children to the left-hand room and shuts the door behind them, uneasy and suspense.
It's with me you wish to speak?
Yes.
Today? But it's not the first yet.
No. Today is Christmas Eve. It will depend upon yourself whether you have a Merry Christmas.
What do you want? I certainly can't today.
Never mind that just now. It's about another matter. You have a minute to spare?
Yes, I suppose so, although...
Good. I was sitting in the restaurant opposite, and I saw your husband go down the street.
Well?
With a lady.
What then?
May I ask if the lady was a Mrs. Linden?
Yes.
Who has just come to town?
Yes. Today.
I believe she's an intimate friend of yours.
Certainly, but I don't understand.
I used to know her too.
I know you did.
Ah, you know all about it. I thought as much. Now, frankly, is Mrs. Linden to have a place in the bank?
How dare you catechize me in this way, Mr. Krogstad? You, a subordinate of my husband's. But since you ask, you shall know. Yes, Mrs. Linden is to be employed, and it is who I recommended her, Mr. Krogstad. Now you know.
Then my guess was right.
Nora walking up and down.
You see, one has a little wee bit of influence. It doesn't follow because one's only a woman that when one is in a subordinate position, Mr. Krogstad, one ought really to take care not to offend anybody who...
Who has influence?
Exactly.
Krogstad taking another tone.
Mrs. Helmer, will you have the kindness to employ your influence on my behalf?
What? How do you mean?
Will you be so good as to see that I retain my subordinate position at the bank?
What do you mean? Who wants to take it from you?
Oh, you needn't pretend ignorance. I can very well understand that it cannot be pleasant for your friend to meet me. And I can also understand now for whose sake I am to be hounded out.
But I assure you...
Come now, once for all. There is time yet, and I advise you to use your influence to prevent it.
But, Mr. Krogstad, I have absolutely no influence.
None? I thought you just said.
Of course, not in that sense. How should I have such influence over my husband?
Oh, I know your husband from our college days. I don't think he is firmer than other husbands are.
If you talk disrespectfully of my husband, I must request you to go.
You are bold, madam.
I am afraid of you no longer. When New Year's Day is over, I shall soon be out of the whole business.
Krogstad controlling himself more.
Listen to me, Mrs. Helmer. If need be, I shall fight as though for my life to keep my little place in the bank.
Yes, so it seems.
It's not only for the money. That matters least to me. It's something else. Well, I'd better make a clean breast of it. Of course, you know, like everyone else, that some years ago I got into trouble.
I think I've heard something of that sort.
The matter never came into court, but from that moment, all paths were barred to me. Then I took up the business you know about. I was obliged to grasp at something, and I don't think I've been one of the worst. But now I must clear out of it all. My sons are growing up. For their sake, I must try to win back as much respectability as I can. This place in the bank was the first step, and now your husband wants to kick me off the ladder, back into the mire.
But I assure you, Mr. Krogstad, I haven't the power to help you.
You have not the will, but I can compel you.
You won't tell my husband that I owe you money.
Suppose I were to.
It would be shameful of you.
With tears in her voice.
Secret, which is my joy and my pride, that he should learn it in such an ugly, coarse way, and from you. It would involve me in all sorts of unpleasantness.
Only unpleasantness?
Nora hotly.
Just do it. It will be worse for you, for then my husband will see what a bad man you are, and then you certainly will not keep your place.
I asked if it was only domestic unpleasantness you feared.
If my husband gets to know about it, he will, of course, pay you off at once, and then we'll have nothing more to do with you.
Krogstad stepping a pace nearer.
Listen, Mrs. Helmer. Either you have a weak memory, or you don't know much about business. I must make your position clearer to you.
How so?
When your husband was ill, you came to me to borrow $1,200.
I knew nobody else.
I promised to find you the money.
And you did find it.
I promised to find you the money under certain conditions. You were then so much taken up about your husband's illness and so eager to have the money for your journey that you probably did not give much thought to the details. Let me remind you of them. I promised to find you the amount in exchange for a note of hand, which I drew up.
Yes, and I signed it.
Quite right. But then I added a few lines, making your father security for the debt. Your father was to sign this.
Was to? He did sign it.
I had left the date blank. That is to say, your father was himself to date his signature. Do you recollect that?
Yes, I believe.
Then I gave you the paper to send to your father. Is not that so?
Yes.
And of course you did so at once? For within 5 or 6 days you brought me back the paper signed by your father, and I gave you the money.
Well, haven't I made my payments punctually?
Fairly, yes. But to return the point, you were in great trouble at the time, Mrs. Helmer.
I was indeed.
Your father was very ill, I believe.
He was on his deathbed.
And died soon after?
Yes.
Tell me, Mrs. Helmer, do you happen to recollect the day of his death? The day of the month, I mean.
Father died on the 29th of September.
Quite correct. I have made inquiries, and here comes in the remarkable point.
Produces a paper.
Which I cannot explain.
What remarkable point? I don't know.
The remarkable point, madam, that your father signed this paper 3 days after his death.
What? I don't understand.
Your father died on the 29th of September, but look here, he has dated his signature October 2nd. Is not that remarkable, Mrs. Helmer?
Nora is silent.
Can you explain it?
Nora continues silent.
It is noteworthy, too, that the words October 2nd and the year are not in your father's handwriting, but in one which I believe I know. Well, this may be explained. Your father may have forgotten to date his signature, and somebody may have added the date at random before the fact of his death was known. There is nothing wrong in that. Everything depends on the signature. Of course, it is genuine, Mrs. Helmer. It was really your father who, with his own hand, wrote his name here?
Nora, after a short silence, throws her head back and looks defiantly at him.
No. I wrote Father's name there.
Ah. Are you aware, madam, that that is a dangerous admission?
Why? You'll soon get your money.
May I ask you one more question? Why did you not send the paper to your father?
It was impossible. Father was ill. If I had asked him for his signature, I should have had to tell him why I wanted the money. But he was so ill. I really could not tell him that my husband's life was in danger. It was impossible.
Then it would have been better to have given up your tour.
No, I couldn't do that. My husband's life depended on that journey. I couldn't give it up.
And did you not consider that you were playing with me false?
That was nothing to me. I didn't care in the least about you. I couldn't endure you for all the cruel difficulties you made, although you knew how ill my husband was.
Mrs. Helmer, you have evidently no clear idea what you have really done. But I can assure you, it was nothing more and nothing worse that made me an outcast from society.
You? You want me to believe that you did a brave thing to save your wife's life?
The law takes no account of motives.
Then it must be a very bad law.
Bad or not, if I lay this document before a court of law, you will be condemned according to the law.
I don't believe that. Do you mean to tell me that a daughter has no right to spare her dying father anxiety? That a wife has no right to save her husband's life? I don't know much about the law, but I'm sure that somewhere or another you will find that that is allowed. And you don't know that. You a lawyer? You must be a bad one, Mr. Krogstad.
Possibly. But business, such business as ours, I do understand. You believe that? Very well. Now do as you please. But this I may tell you, that if I am flung into the gutter a second time, you shall keep me company.
Bows and goes out through the hall. Nora stands a while thinking, then throws her head back.
Never. He wants to frighten me. I'm not so foolish as that.
Begins folding the children's clothes. Pauses.
But no, it's impossible. I did it for love.
Children at the door left. Mama, the strange man is gone now.
Yes, I know, but don't tell anyone about the strange man. Do you hear? Not even Papa.
No, Mama. And now will you play with us again?
No, not now.
Oh, do, Mama. You know you promised.
Yes, but I can't just now. Run to the nursery. I've so much to do. Run along, and be good, my darlings.
She pushes them gently into the inner room and closes the door behind them, throws herself onto the sofa, embroiders a few stitches, but soon pauses.
No!
Throws down work, rises, goes to the hall door and calls out.
Ellen, bring in the Christmas tree.
Goes to the table left and opens the drawer, pauses again.
No. It's quite impossible.
Ellen with the Christmas tree. Where shall I stand it, madam?
There, in the middle of the room.
Shall I bring it in anything else?
No, thank you. I have all I want.
Ellen has put down the tree, goes out. Nora busy dressing the tree.
There must be a candle here and flowers there. The horrid man. Nonsense. There's nothing in it. The Christmas tree shall be beautiful. I will do everything to please you, Torvald. I'll sing and dance and...
Enter Helmer by the door with a bundle of documents.
Oh, you're back already?
Yes. Has anybody been here?
Here? No.
Oh, curious. I saw Krogstad come out of the house.
Did you? Oh, yes. By the by, he was here for a minute.
All right. I can see it by your manner. When he asked you to put in a good word for him.
Yes.
And you were to do it of your own accord. You were to say nothing to me of his being here. Didn't he suggest that too?
Yes, Torvald, but...
Nora. And you could condescend to that. To speak to such a man, to make him a promise. And to tell me an untruth about it.
An untruth?
Didn't you say nobody had been here?
Threatens with his finger.
My little bird must never do that again. Songbird must never sing false notes.
Puts his arm around her.
That's so, isn't it? Yes, I was sure of it.
Lets her go.
And now we'll say no more about it.
Sits down before the fire.
Ah, how cozy and quiet it is here.
Glances into his documents. Nora busy with the tree after a long silence.
Torvald,
Yes.
I'm looking forward so much to the Stenborg's fancy ball the day after tomorrow.
And I'm on tenterhooks to see what surprise you have in store for me.
Oh, it's too tiresome.
What is?
I can't think of anything good. Everything seems so foolish and meaningless.
Has little Nora made that discovery?
Nora behind his chair with her arms on the back.
Are you very busy, Torvald?
Well,
What sort of papers are those?
bank business.
Already?
I got the retiring manager to let me make some changes in the staff and so forth. This will occupy Christmas week. Everything will be straight by the new year.
Then that's why the poor Krogstad.
Nora still leaning over the chair back and slowly stroking his hair.
If you hadn't been so very busy, I should have asked you a great, great favor, Torvald.
Well, what can it be? Let's hear it.
Nobody has such exquisite taste as you. Now, I should so love to look well at the fancy ball. Torvald, dear, couldn't you take me in hand and settle what I'm going to be and arrange my costume for me?
So my willful little woman's at a loss and making signals of distress.
Yes, please, Torvald. I can't get on without you.
Oh, well, I'll think it over, and we'll soon hit upon something.
Oh, how good that is of you.
Goes to the tree again. Pause.
How well the red flowers show.
Hmm.
Tell me, was it anything so dreadful this Krogstad got into trouble about?
Forgery, that's all. Don't you know what that means?
Man, he had it driven to it by need?
Yes, or like so many others, done it out of heedlessness. I'm not so hard-hearted as to condemn a man absolutely for a single fault.
No, surely not, Torvald.
Many a man can retrieve his character if he owns his crime and takes the punishment.
Crime?
Krogstad didn't do that. He resorted to tricks and dodges, and that has corrupted him.
Do you think that...
Just think how a man with that on his conscience must be always lying and canting and shamming. Think the mask he must wear, even towards his own wife and children. It's the worst for the children, Nora.
Why?
Oh, it's such a dust cloud of lies, poisons, and contaminates the whole air of home. Every breath the children draw contains some germ of evil.
Nora closer behind him.
Are you sure of that?
As a lawyer, my dear, I've seen it often enough. Nearly all cases of early corruption may be traced to lying mothers.
Why, mothers?
Generally comes from the mother's side. But of course, the father's influence may act in the same way, and this Krogstad has been poisoning his own children for years past by a life of lies and hypocrisy. That's why I call him morally ruined.
Stretches out his hands towards her.
So my sweet little Nora must promise not to plead his case. Shake hands upon it. Come now, what's this? Give me your hand. That's right. Then it's a bargain. I assure you it would have been impossible for me to work with him. It gives me a positive sense of physical discomfort to come in contact with such people.
Nora snatches her hand away and moves to the other side of the Christmas tree.
How warm it is here, and I have so much to do.
Yes, and I was trying to get some of these papers looked through before dinner. And I'll try to think of your costume, too. And perhaps I may even find something to hang in gilt paper on the Christmas tree.
Lays his hand on her head.
My precious little songbird.
He goes into his room and shuts the door behind him. Nora softly after a pause.
It can't be. It's impossible.
Anna at the door left. Little ones are begging so prettily to come to Mama.
No, don't let them come to me. Keep them with you, Anna.
Very well, ma'am. Shuts the door. Nora pale with terror.
I corrupt my children, poison my home.
Short pause, she raises her head.
It's not true. It can never be true.
All right.
We're rolling
From
now.
the top of Act 2.
Act 2 or is it Act E?
Act E.
The same room in the corner beside the piano stands Christmas tree, stripped, and the candles burnt out. Walking things lie on the sofa. Nora's walking things lie on the sofa. Nora discovered walking about restlessly. She stops by sofa, takes up cloak, then lays it down again.
There's somebody coming.
Goes to the hall door, listens.
Nobody. Nobody is likely to come today, Christmas Day, nor tomorrow either. But perhaps.
Opens the door and looks out.
No, nothing. The letterbox quite empty.
Comes forward.
Stuff and nonsense. Of course, he only meant to frighten me. There's no fear of any such thing. It's impossible. Why, I have 3 little children.
Enter Anna from the left with a large cardboard box. Anna, at last I found the box with the fancy dress.
Thanks. Put it down on the table.
Anna does so, but it's very much out of order.
Oh, I wish I could tear it into 100,000 pieces.
Oh no, it can easily be put to rights. Just a little patience.
I'll go and get Mrs. Linden to help me.
Going out again in such weather as this, you'll catch a cold, ma'am, and be ill.
Worse things might happen. What are the children doing?
They're playing with their Christmas presents, poor little dears, but
Do they often ask after me?
you see, they've been so used to having their mama with them.
Yes, but Anna, in future, I can't have them so much with me.
Little children get used to anything.
Do you think they do? Do you believe they would forget their mother if she went quite away?
Gracious me, quite away.
Tell me, Anna. I've so often wondered about it. How could you bring yourself to give your child up to strangers?
I had to when I came as nurse to my little Miss Nora.
But how could you make up your mind to it?
When I had the chance of such a good place, a poor girl who's been in trouble must take what comes. That wicked man did nothing for me.
But your daughter must have forgotten you.
Oh, no, ma'am, that she hasn't. She wrote to me both when she was confirmed and when she was married. Nora embracing her.
Dear old Anna, you were a good mother to me when I was little.
My poor little Nora had no mother but me.
And if my little ones had nobody else, I'm sure you would. Nonsense.
Opens the box.
Go into the children. Now I must. Tomorrow, you shall see how beautiful I'll be.
I'm sure there'll be no one at the ball so beautiful as my Miss Nora. She goes into the room on the left. Nora takes the costume out of the box, but soon throws it down again.
Oh, if I dared go out. If only nobody would come. If only nothing would happen here in the meantime. Rubbish. Nobody will come. Only not to think. What a delicious muff. Beautiful gloves, beautiful gloves. Away with it all, away with it all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
With a scream.
Ah, there they come.
Goes toward the door, then stands undecidedly. Mrs. Linden enters from the hall where she has taken off her things.
Oh, it's you, Christina. Is nobody else there? How delightful of you to come.
I hear you called at my lodgings.
Yes, I was just passing. I do so want you to help me. Let us sit here on the sofa. So, tomorrow evening there's to be a fancy ball at Consul Stenborg's overhead, and Torvald wants me to appear as a Neapolitan fisher girl and to dance the tarantella. I learned it at Capri.
Let's see, quite a performance.
Yes, Torvald wishes me to. Look, this is the costume. Torvald had it made for me in Italy, but now it is all so torn. I don't know.
Oh, we'll soon set that to rights. It's only the trimming that's got loose here and there. Have you a needle and thread? Ah, here's the very thing.
Oh, how kind of you.
So you're to be in costume tomorrow, Nora. I'll tell you what, I shall come in for a moment to see you in all your glory. But I've quite forgotten to thank you for the pleasant evening yesterday.
Nora rises and walks across the room.
Oh, yesterday it didn't seem so pleasant as usual. You should have come a little sooner, Christina. Torvald has certainly the art of making home bright and beautiful.
You too, I should think, or you wouldn't be your father's daughter. But tell me, is Dr. Rank always so depressed as he was yesterday?
No, yesterday it was particularly striking. You see, he has a terrible illness. He has spinal consumption, poor fellow. They say his father led a terrible life, kept mistresses and all sorts of things. So the son has been sickly from his childhood, you understand.
Mrs. Linden lets her sewing fall into her lap.
Why, my darling Nora, how do you learn such things?
Nora walking.
Oh, when one has 3 children, one has visits from women who know something of medicine and they talk of this and that.
Mrs. Linden goes on sewing, a short pause.
Does Dr. Rank come here every day?
Every day. He's been Torvald's friend from boyhood, and he's a good friend of mine, too. Dr. Rank is quite one of the family.
But tell me, is he quite sincere? I mean, doesn't he like to say flattering things to people?
On the contrary, why should you think so?
When you introduced us yesterday, he declared he had often heard my name, but I noticed your husband had no notion who I was. How could Dr. Rank?
Yes, he was quite right, Christina. You see, Torvald loves me so indescribably. He wants to have me all to himself, as he says. When we were first married, he was almost jealous if I even mentioned one of the people at home, so I naturally let it alone. But I often talk to Dr. Rank about the old times, for he likes to listen to me.
Listen to me, Nora. You're still a child in many ways. I'm older than you and have more experience. I'll tell you something. You ought to clear off the whole affair with Dr. Rank.
What affair?
You were talking yesterday of a rich admirer who was to find you money.
Yes, one who never existed. Worse luck. What then?
Has Dr. Rank money
Yes, he has.
and nobody to provide for?
Nobody, but
And he comes here every day?
yes, every day.
I should have thought he'd have better taste.
I don't understand you.
Don't pretend, Nora. Do you suppose I don't guess who lent you the $1,200?
Are you out of your senses? You think that? A friend who comes here every day? How painful that would be.
Then it really is not he?
No, I assure you, it never for a moment occurred to me. Besides, at that time he had nothing to lend. He came into his property afterwards.
Well, I believe that was lucky for you, Nora dear.
No, really, it would never have struck me to ask Dr. Rank, but I'm certain that if I did,
But of course you never would.
of course not. It's inconceivable that it should ever be necessary. But I'm quite sure that if I spoke to Dr. Rank,
Behind your husband's back?
I must get out of the other thing. That's behind his back too. I must get out of that.
Yes, yes, I told you so already, but
Nora walking up and down.
A man can manage these things much better than a woman.
one's own husband, yes?
Nonsense.
Stand still.
When everything is paid, one gets back the paper
Of course.
and can tear it into 100,000 pieces and burn it, the nasty, filthy thing.
Mrs. Linden looks at her fixedly, lays down her work, and rises slowly.
Nora, you're hiding something from me.
Can you see that in my face?
Something has happened since yesterday morning. Nora, what is it?
Nora going towards her,
Christina.
listens.
Hush! There's Torvald coming home. Here, go into the nursery. Torvald cannot bear to see dressmaking. Let Anna help you.
Mrs. Linden gathers some of the things together.
Very well, but I shan't go away until you've told me all about it.
She goes out to the left as Helmer enters from the hall. Nora runs to meet him.
Oh, how I've been longing for you to come, Torvald, dear.
Was the dressmaker here?
No, Christina. She is helping me with my costume. You'll see how well I shall look.
Yes. Wasn't that a lucky thought of mine?
Splendid. But isn't it good of me, too, to have given it to you?
Helmer takes her under his chin.
Good of you to give in to your own husband. Well, you little madcap. I know you don't mean it, but I won't disturb you. I dare say you want to be trying on.
And you're going to work, I suppose?
Yes.
Shows her a bundle of papers.
Look here.
Goes toward his room.
I've just come from the bank.
Torvald,
Helmer stopping.
Yes.
if your little squirrel were to beg you for something so prettily,
Well,
would you do it?
I must know first what it is.
The squirrel would jump about and play all sorts of tricks if you would only be so nice and kind.
Come then, out with it.
Your lark would weather Twitter from morning till night.
Oh, that she does in any case.
I'll be an elf and dance in the moonlight for you, Torvald.
Nora, you can't mean what you are hinting at this morning.
Nora coming nearer.
Yes, Torvald, I beg and implore you.
Have you really the courage to begin that again?
Yes, yes. For my sake, you must let Krogstad keep his place in the bank.
My dear Nora, it's his place I intend for Mrs. Linden.
Yes, that's so good of you. But instead of Krogstad, you could dismiss some other clerk.
Well, this is incredible obstinacy. Because you thoughtlessly promised to put in a word for him, I am to...
It's not that, Torvald. It's for your own sake. This man writes for the most scurrilous newspapers. You said so yourself. He can do you such a lot of harm. I'm mortally afraid of him.
I understand. Is it old recollections that are frightening you?
What do you mean?
Oh, of course, you're thinking about your father.
Yes, of course. Only think of the shameful things wicked people used to write about father. I believe they have got him dismissed if you hadn't been sent to look into the things and been kind to him and helped him.
My dear Nora, between your father and me, there is all the difference in the world. Your father was not altogether unimpeachable. I am, and I hope to remain so.
Oh, no one knows what wicked men can hit upon. We could live so happily now in our cozy, quiet home. You and I and the children, Torvald. That's why I beg and implore you.
And it's just by pleading his case that you make it impossible for me to keep him. It's already known at the bank that I intend to dismiss Krogstad. If I were now reported that the new manager let himself be turned round his wife's little finger.
What then?
No, nothing. Nothing, so long as a willful woman can have her way. I am to make myself the laughing stock of everyone and set people saying I am under petticoat government. Take my word for it, I should soon feel the consequences. Besides, there's one thing that makes Krogstad impossible for me to work with.
What thing?
I could perhaps have overlooked his shady character at a pinch.
Yes, couldn't you, Torvald?
And I hear he's good at his work, but the fact is, he was a college chum of mine. There was one of those rash friendships between us that one so often repents of later. I don't mind confessing it. He calls me by my Christian name, and he insists on doing it even when others are present. He delights in putting on airs of familiarity. Torvald here, Torvald there. I assure you it's most painful to me. He would make my position at the bank perfectly unendurable.
Torvald, you're not serious.
No? Why not?
That's such a petty reason.
What? Petty? Do you consider me petty?
Oh, on the contrary, Torvald, dear. And that's just why...
Never mind. You call my motives petty, then I must be petty too. Petty. Very well. Now we'll put an end to this all at once, and once and for all.
Goes to the door into the hall and calls.
Ellen!
What do you want?
Helmer searching among his papers.
To settle a thing.
Ellen enters.
There. Take this letter, give it to a messenger. See that he takes it at once. The address is on it, and here is the money.
Very well. Goes with the letter. Helmer arranging papers.
There, Madam Obstinacy.
Nora breathless.
Torvald, what was in that letter?
Krogstad's dismissal.
Call it back again, Torvald. There's still time. Oh, Torvald, get it back again. For my sake, for your own, for the children's sake. Do you hear, Torvald? Do it. You don't know what that letter may bring upon us all.
It's too late.
Yes, too late.
My dear Nora, I forgive your anxiety, though it's anything but flattering to me. Why should I be afraid of a blackguard scribbler's spite? I forgive you all the same, for it's proof of your great love for me.
Takes her in his arms.
That's how it should be, my own dear Nora. Let what will happen when the time comes. I shall have strength and courage enough, you shall see. My shoulders are broad enough to bear the whole burden.
Nora terror-struck.
What do you mean by that?
A whole burden, I say.
Nora decidedly.
That you shall never, never do.
Oh, very well. Then we shall share it, Nora, as man and wife.
Petting her.
Are you satisfied now? Calm. Don't look like a scared dove. It is all nothing. Fancy. Now you must play the tarantella, though, and practice the tambourine. I shall sit in my inner room and shut both doors so that I hear nothing. You can make as much noise as you please.
Turns round in the doorway.
And when Rank comes, just tell him where I'm to be found.
He nods to her and goes with his papers into his room, closing the door. Nora, bewildered with terror, stands as though rooted in the ground and whispers.
He would do it. Yes, he would do it. He would do it in spite of all the world. Oh, never that, never, never. Anything rather than that. Oh, for some way of escape. What to do?
Hall bell rings.
Dr. Rank. Anything rather than that. Anything.
Nora draws her hands over her face, pulls herself together, goes to the door and opens it. Rank stands outside, hanging up his great coat. During the following, it grows dark.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rank. I knew you by your ring, but you mustn't go to Torvald now. I believe he's busy.
And you?
Oh, you know very well. I've always time for you.
Thank you. I shall avail myself of your kindness as long as I can.
What do you mean, as long as you can?
Yes. Does that frighten you?
I think it's an odd expression. Do you expect anything to happen?
Something I've been long prepared for, but I did not think it would come so soon.
Nora seizing his arm.
What is it, Dr. Rank? You must tell me.
Rank sitting down by the stove.
I am running downhill. There is no help for it.
Nora draws a long breath of relief.
It's you?
Who else should it be? Why lie to oneself? The most wretched of all my patients. Mrs. Helmer, been auditioning my life account. Bankrupt. Before a month is over, I shall lie rotting in the churchyard.
Oh, what an ugly way to talk.
The thing itself is so confoundedly ugly, you see. But the worst of it is, so many other ugly things have to be gone through first. There is one last investigation to be made. And when that is over, I shall know exactly when the breakup will begin. There's one thing I want to say to you. Helma's delicate nature shrinks so from all that is horrible. I will not have him in my sick room.
But Dr. Rank.
I won't have him, I say. Not on any account. I shall lock my door against him as soon as I have ascertained the worst. I shall send you my visiting card with a black cross on it, and then you will know that the horror has begun.
Why, you're perfectly unreasonable today, and I did so want you to be in a really good humor.
With death staring me in the face, and to suffer thus for another sin, whereas justice of it And in every family, you can see some inexorable retribution.
Nora stopping her ears.
Nonsense, nonsense. Now cheer up.
Well, after all, the whole thing's only worth laughing at. My poor innocent spine must do penance for my father's wild oats.
Nora at table left.
I suppose he was too fond of asparagus and Strasbourg pate, wasn't he?
Yes, and truffles.
Yes, truffles to be sure. And oysters, I believe.
Yes, oysters. Oysters, of course.
And then all the port and champagne. It's sad all these good things should attack the spine.
Yeah, especially when the spine attack never had any good of them.
Yes, that's the worst of it.
Rank looks at her searchingly.
Hmm.
Nora a moment later.
Why did you smile?
No, it was you that laughed.
No, it was you that smiled, Dr. Rank.
Rank standing up.
You're deeper than I thought.
I'm in such a crazy mood today.
So it seems.
Nora with her hands on his shoulders.
Dear, dear Dr. Rank, death shall not take you away from Torvald and me.
Oh, you'll easily get over the loss. The absent are soon forgotten.
Do you
Nora
think so?
looks at him anxiously.
Do you think so?
People make fresh ties. And then
Who make fresh ties?
you and Helmer will, when I'm gone. You yourself are taking time by the forelock, it seems to me. What was that Mrs. Linden doing here yesterday?
Oh, you're surely not jealous of Christina?
Yes, I am. She will be my successor in this house. When I'm gone, this woman will perhaps...
Hush! Not so loud. She's in there.
Today as well? You see?
Only to put my costume in order. How unreasonable you are.
Sits on sofa.
Now do be good, Dr. Rank. Tomorrow you shall see how beautifully I dance, and then you may fancy that I am doing it all to please you, and of course Torvald as well.
Takes various things out of a box.
Dr. Rank, sit here, and I'll show you something.
Rank sitting.
What is it?
Look here, look!
Silk stockings.
Flesh-colored. Aren't they lovely? Oh, it's so dark here now, but tomorrow. No. You must only look at the feet. Oh, well, I suppose you may look at the rest too.
Hmm?
What are you looking so critical about? Do you think they won't fit me?
I can't possibly have any valid opinion on that point.
Nora looking at him a moment.
For shame.
Hits him lightly on the ear with the stockings.
Take that.
Rolls them up again.
And what other wonders am I to see?
You shan't see any more, for you don't behave nicely.
She hums a little and searches among the things. Rank after a short silence.
When I sit here, gossiping with you, I simply can't imagine what would have become of me if I'd never entered this house.
Nora smiling.
Yes, I think you do feel at home with us.
Rank more softly, looking straight before him.
And now, to have to leave it all,
Nonsense. You shan't leave us.
and not to be able to leave behind the slightest token of gratitude, scarcely even a passing regret, nothing but an empty place that can be filled by the first comer.
And if I were to ask you for... No,
For what?
for a great proof of your friendship.
Yes?
No, I mean, for a very, very great service.
Would you really for once make me so happy?
Oh, you don't know what it is.
Then tell me.
No, I really can't. It's far, far too much. Not only a service, but help and advice besides.
So much the better. I can't think what you can mean, but go on. Don't you trust me?
As I trust no one else. I know you are my best and truest friend, so I will tell you. Well then, Dr. Rank, You must help me to hinder something. You know how deeply, how wonderfully Torvald loves me. He would not hesitate a moment to give his very life for my sake.
Rank bending towards her.
Nora, do you think he is the only one
Nora with a slight start.
Who
would gladly give his life for you?
Nora sadly.
Oh,
I have sworn that you shall know it before I go. I should never find a better opportunity. Yes, Nora, now you know it. Now you know, too, that you can trust me as you can no one else.
Nora standing up simply and calmly.
let me pass, please.
Rank makes way for her, but remains sitting.
Nora,
Nora in the doorway.
Ellen, bring the lamp.
Crosses to the stove.
Oh dear, Dr. Rank, that was too bad for you.
Rank rising.
that I have loved you as deeply as anyone else? Was that too bad of me?
No, but that you should tell me so. It was so unnecessary.
What do you mean? Did you know?
Ellen enters with the lamp, sets it on a table, and goes out again.
Nora, Mrs. Helmer, I ask you, did you know?
Oh, how can I tell you what I knew or didn't know? I really can't say. How could you be so clumsy, Dr. Rank? It was all so nice.
Well, at any rate, you know now that I am yours, soul and body. And now, go on.
Nora looking at him.
Go on now?
I beg you to tell me what you want.
I can tell you nothing now.
Yes, yes. You mustn't punish me in that way. Let me do for you whatever a man can.
You can really do nothing for me now. Besides, I really want no help. You'll see it was only my fancy. Yes, it must be so, of course.
Sits in the rocking chair smiling at him.
You're a nice one, Dr. Rank. Aren't you ashamed of yourself now the lamp's on the table?
No, not exactly. But perhaps I ought to go. Forever.
No, indeed you mustn't. Of course you must come and go as you've always done. You know very well that Torvald can't do without you.
Yes. But you?
Oh, you know I always like to have you here.
That's just what led me astray. You're a riddle to me. It has often seemed to me as if you liked being with me almost as much as being with Helma.
Yes, don't you see? There are some people one loves and others one likes to talk to.
Yes, there's something in that.
When I was a girl, I naturally loved Papa best, but it always delighted me to steal into those servant rooms. In the first place, they never lectured me, and in the second, it was such fun to hear them talk.
Oh, I see. Then it's their place I have taken.
Nora jumps up and hurries towards him.
Oh, my dear Dr. Rank, I don't mean that, but you understand. With Torvald, it's the same as with Papa.
Ellen enters from the hall. Please, ma'am, whispers to Nora and gives her a card. Nora glances at the card,
Ah,
puts it in her pocket.
Anything wrong?
no, not in the least. It's my new costume.
Why, it's there.
Oh, that one, yes. But it's another that I ordered it. Torvald mustn't know.
Aha! So that's the great secret.
Yes, of course. Do just go to him. He's in the inner room. Do keep him as long as you can.
Make yourself easy. He shan't escape.
Goes into Helmer's room. Nora to Ellen.
Is he waiting in the kitchen?
Yes, he came up the back stair.
Didn't you tell him I was engaged?
Yes, but it was no use.
He won't go away?
No, ma'am, not until he has spoken with you.
Then let him come in, but quietly. And Ellen, say nothing about it. It's a surprise for my husband.
Oh, yes, ma'am, I understand. She goes out.
It's coming. It's coming after all. No, no, no. It can never be. It shall not.
She goes to Helmer's door and slips the bolt. Ellen opens the hall door for Krogstad and shuts it after him. He wears a traveling coat, high boots, and a fur cap.
Speak quietly. My husband is at home.
All right, I don't care.
What do you want?
A little information.
Be quick then. What is it?
You know I have got my dismissal.
I could not prevent it, Mr. Krogstad. Fought for you to the last, but it was no good.
Does your husband care for you so little? He knows what I can bring upon you, and yet he dares.
How can you think I should tell him?
I knew very well you hadn't. It wasn't like my friend Torvald Helmer to show so much courage.
Mr. Krogstad, be good enough to speak respectfully of my husband.
Certainly, with all due respect. But since you're so anxious to keep the matter secret, I suppose you're a little clearer than yesterday as to what you have done.
Clearer than you could ever make me.
Yes, such a bad lawyer as I.
What is it you want?
Only to see how you were getting on, Mrs. Helmer. I've been thinking about you all day. A mere moneylender, a penny-a-liner, in short, a creature like me. Has a little bit of what people call heart.
Then show it. Think of my little children.
Did you and your husband think of mine? But enough of that. I only wanted to tell you that you needn't take this matter too seriously. I shan't lodge any information for the present.
No, surely not. I knew you would not.
The whole thing can be settled quite quietly. Nobody need know. It can remain among us three.
My husband must never know.
How can you prevent it? Can you pay off the debt?
No, not at once.
Or have you any means of raising the money in the next few days?
None that I will make use of.
And if you had, it would be no good to you now. If you offered me ever so much ready money, you should not get back your IOU.
Tell me what you want to do with it.
I only want to keep it, to have it in my possession. No outsider shall hear anything of it. So, if you've got any desperate scheme in your head,
What if I have?
if you should think of leaving your husband and children,
What if I do?
or if you should think of something worse,
How do you know that?
put all that out of your head.
How did you know what I had in my mind?
Most of us think of that at first. I thought of it too, but I had not the courage.
Voicelessly, Nora.
Nor I.
Krogstad relieved.
No, one hasn't. You haven't the courage either, have you?
I haven't.
Besides, it would be very silly when the first storm is over. I have a letter in my pocket for your husband,
Telling him everything?
sparing you as much as possible.
Nora quickly.
He must never have that letter. Tear it up. I will get the money somehow.
Pardon me, Mrs. Helmer, but I believe I told you.
Oh, I'm not talking about the money I owe you. Tell me how much you demand from my husband. I'll get it.
I demand no money from your husband.
What do you demand then?
I'll tell you. I want to regain my footing in the world. I want to rise, and your husband shall help me to do it. For the last 18 months, my record has been spotless. I've been in bitter need all the time, but I was content to fight my way up, step by step. Now, I've been thrust down, and I won't be satisfied with merely being allowed to sneak back again. I want to rise, I tell you. I must get into the bank again, in a higher position than before. Your husband shall create a place on purpose for me.
He will never do that.
He will do it. I know him. He won't dare to refuse. And when I'm in, you'll soon see. I shall be the manager's right hand. It won't be Torvald Helmer, but Nils Krogstad that manages the joint stock bank.
That will never be.
Perhaps you'll...
Now I have the courage for it.
Oh, you don't frighten me. A sensitive, petted creature like you.
You shall see. You shall see.
Under the ice, perhaps. Down in the cold, black water. And next spring to come up again, ugly, hairless, unrecognizable.
You can't terrify me.
Nor you me. People don't do that sort of thing, Mrs. Helmer. And after all, what good would it be? I have your husband in my pocket all the same.
Afterwards? When I am no longer.
You forget, your reputation remains in my hands.
Nora stands speechless and looks at him.
Well, now you are prepared. Do nothing foolish. So soon as Helmer has received my letter, I shall expect to hear from him. And remember that it is your husband himself who has forced me back again into such paths. That I will never forgive him. Goodbye, Mrs. Helmer.
Goes through the hall. Nora hurries to the door, opens it a little, and listens.
He's going. He's not putting the letter into the box. No. No, it would be impossible.
Opens the door further and further.
What's that? He's standing still, not going downstairs. Is he changing his mind? Would he?
A letter falls in the box. Krogstad's footsteps are heard gradually receding down the stair. Nora utters a suppressed shriek. Pause.
In the letterbox?
Slips shrinkingly up to the door.
There it lies. Torvald. Torvald, now we are lost.
Mrs. Linden enters from the left with the costume.
There, I think it's all right now. Shall we just try it on?
Nora, hoarsely and softly.
Christina, come here.
Mrs. Linden throws dress on sofa.
What's the matter? You look quite aghast.
Come here. Do you see that letter? There, see through the glass of the letterbox?
Yes, I see it.
That letter is from Krogstad.
Nora, it was Krogstad who lent you the money?
Yes, and now Torvald will know everything.
Believe me, Nora, it's the best thing for you both.
You don't know all yet. I have forged a name.
Good heavens.
Now listen to me, Christina. You shall bear me witness.
How? Witness? What am I to?
If I should go out of my mind, it might easily happen.
Nora?
Or if anything else should happen to me so that I couldn't be here myself.
Nora, you're quite beside yourself.
In case anyone wanted to take it all upon himself. The whole blame, you understand.
Yes, but how can you think?
You shall bear witness that it's not true, Christina. I'm not out of my mind at all. I know quite well what I'm saying. And I tell you, nobody else knew anything about it. I did the whole thing. I myself. Don't forget that.
I won't forget, but I don't understand what you mean.
Oh, how should you? It's the miracle coming to pass.
The miracle?
Yes, the miracle. But it is so terrible, Christina. It mustn't happen for anything in the world.
I will go straight to Krogstad and talk to him.
Don't. He will do you some harm.
Once he would have done anything for me.
He?
Where does he live?
Oh, how can I tell? Yes.
Feels in her pocket.
Here's his card. But the letter!
Helmer knocking outside.
Nora,
Nora shrieks in terror.
What is it? What do you want?
don't be frightened. We're not coming in. You bolted the door. Are you trying on your dress?
Yes, I'm trying it on. It suits me so well, Torvald.
Mrs. Linden, who has read the card.
Then he lives close by here?
Yes, but it's no use now. The letter is actually in the box.
And your husband has a key?
Always.
Krogstad must ask for his letter back unread. He must make some excuse.
But this is the very time when Torvald generally...
Prevent him. Keep him occupied. I'll come back as quickly as I can.
She goes out quickly through the hall door. Nora opens Helmer's door and peeps in.
Torvald!
Now may one come back into one's own room? Come, Rank, we'll have a look.
In the doorway.
But how's this?
What, Torvald, dear?
Rank led me to expect a grand dressing up.
Rank in the doorway.
So I understood. I suppose I was mistaken.
No one shall see me in my glory till tomorrow evening.
Why, Nora, dear, you look so tired. Have you been practicing too hard?
No, I haven't practiced at all yet.
But you'll have to.
Yes, It's absolutely necessary. But Torvald, I can't get on without your help. I've forgotten everything.
Oh, we'll soon freshen it up again.
Yes, you help me, Torvald. You must promise me. Oh, I am so nervous about it. Before so many people, this evening you must give yourself up entirely to me. You mustn't do a stroke of work. Now promise, Torvald, dear.
I promise. All this evening, I will be your slave, little helpless thing. But by the by, I must first.
Going to the hall door.
What do you want there?
Only to see if there are any letters.
No, no, don't do that, Torvald.
Why not?
Torvald, I beg you not to. There are none there.
Well, let me just see.
Is going. Nora at the piano plays the first bars of the Tarantella. At the door, Helmer stops.
Ah,
I can't dance tomorrow if I don't rehearse with you first.
Helmer going to her.
are you really so nervous, dear Nora?
Yes, dreadfully. Let me rehearse at once. We have time before dinner. So do sit down and accompany me, Torvald dear. Direct me as you used to do.
With all the pleasure in life, if you wish it.
Sits at the piano. Nora snatches the tambourine out of the box and hurriedly drapes herself in a long party-colored shawl. Then, with a bound, stands in the middle of the floor.
Now play for me. Now I'll dance.
Helmer plays and Nora dances. Rank stands at the piano behind Helmer and looks on. Helmer playing.
Slower, slower.
Can't do it slower.
Oh, not so violently, Nora.
I must.
Helmer stops.
Nora, that'll never do.
Nora laughs and swings her tambourine.
Didn't I tell you so?
Let me accompany her.
Helmer rising.
Yes, do, and then I can direct her better.
Rank sits down to the piano and plays. Nora dances more and more wildly. Helmer stands by the stove, addresses frequent corrections to her. She seems not to hear. Her hair breaks loose and falls over her shoulders. She does not notice it, but goes on dancing. Mrs. Linden enters and stands spellbound in the doorway. Nora dancing.
We're having such fun here, Christina.
Why, Nora, dear, you're dancing as if it were a matter of life and death.
So it is.
Rank, stop. This is merest madness. Stop, I say.
Rank stops playing, and Nora comes to a sudden standstill. Helmer going towards her.
I couldn't have believed it. You've positively forgotten all I taught you.
Nora throws tambourine away.
You see for yourself.
You really do want teaching.
Yes, you see how much I need it. You must practice with me up to the last moment. Will you promise me, Torvald?
Certainly, certainly.
Neither today nor tomorrow must you think of anything but me. You mustn't open a single letter, mustn't look at that letter box.
You are still afraid of that man.
Yes, I am.
Nora, I can see it in your face. There's a letter from him in the box.
I don't know. I believe so, but you're not going to read anything now. Nothing must come between us until all is over.
Rank softly to Helmer.
You mustn't contradict her.
Helmer putting his arm around her.
The child shall have her own way. But tomorrow night, when the dance is over...
Then you will be free.
Ellen appears in the doorway right. Dinner is ready, ma'am.
We'll have some champagne, Ellen.
Yes, ma'am. Goes out.
Dear me, quite a feast.
Yes, and we'll keep it up till morning.
Calling out.
And macaroons, Ellen, plenty. Just this once.
Helmer seizing her hands.
Come, don't let's have this wild excitement. Be my own little lark again.
Oh, yes, I will. But now go into the dining room. And you too, Dr. Rank. Christina, you must help me do up my hair.
Rank softly as they go.
There is nothing in the wind. Nothing. I mean,
Oh, no, nothing of the kind. It's merely this babyish anxiety I was telling you about.
They go out to the right.
Well,
Gone out of town.
I saw it in your face.
He's come back tomorrow evening. I left a note for him.
You shouldn't have done that. Things must take their course. After all, there's something glorious in waiting for the miracle.
What are you waiting for?
Oh, you can't understand. Go to them in the dining room. I'll come in a moment.
Mrs. Linden goes into the dining room. Nora stands for a moment as though collecting her thoughts, then looks at her watch.
5. 7 hours till midnight, then 24 hours till the next midnight, then the Tarantara will be over. 24 and 7, still 31 hours to live.
Helmer appears at the door right.
What's become of my little lark?
Nora runs to him with open arms.
Here she is.
Act 3, the same room, the table with the chairs around it is in the middle, a lamp lit on the table. The door to the hall stands open. Dance music is heard from the floor above. Mrs. Linden sits by the table and absently turns the pages of a book. She tries to read, but seems unable to fix her attention. She frequently listens and looks anxiously towards the hall door. Mrs. Linden looks at her watch.
Still not here, and the time's nearly up. If only he hasn't.
Listens again.
Ah, there he is.
She goes to the hall and cautiously opens the outer door. Soft footsteps are heard on the stairs. She whispers,
Come in, there's no one here.
Krogstad in the doorway.
I found a note from you at my house. What does it mean?
I must speak to you.
Indeed? And in this house?
I could not see you at my rooms. They have no separate entrance. Come in. We're quite alone. The servants are asleep, and the Helmers are at the ball upstairs.
Krogstad coming into room.
Ah, so the Helmers are dancing this evening. Really?
Yes, why not?
Quite right, why not?
And now, let us talk a little.
Have we anything to say to each other?
A great deal,
I should not have thought so.
because you have never really understood me.
What was there to understand? The most natural thing in the world. A heartless woman throws a man over when a better match offers.
Do you really think me so heartless? Do you think I broke with you lightly?
Did you not?
Do you really think so?
If not, why did you write me that letter?
Was it not best, since I had to break with you? Was it not right that I should try to put an end to your love for me?
Krogstad pressing his hands together.
So that was it. And all this for the sake of money.
You ought not forget that I had a helpless mother and 2 little brothers. We could not wait for you as your prospects then stood.
Did that give you the right to discard me for another?
I don't know. I have often asked myself whether I did right.
Krogstad more softly.
When I had lost you, the very ground seemed to sink from under my feet. Look at me now. I am a shipwrecked man clinging to a spar.
Rescue may be at hand.
It was at hand. But then you stood in the way.
Without my knowledge, Nels, I did not know till today that it was you I was to replace in the bank.
Well, I take your word for it. But now you do know. Do you mean to give away?
No, for that would not help you.
Oh, help, help. I should do it whether or no.
I have learned prudence. Life and bitter necessity have schooled me.
And life has taught me not to trust fine speeches.
Then life has taught you a very sensible thing. But deeds you will trust?
What do you mean?
You said you were a shipwrecked man clinging to a spar.
I have good reason to say so.
I am a shipwrecked woman clinging to a spar. I have no one to care for.
You made your own choice.
I had no choice.
Well, what then?
How if we 2 shipwrecked people could join hands?
What?
Suppose we lash the spars together?
Christina.
What do you think brought me to town?
Had you any thought of me?
I must have work or I can't live. All my life, as long as I can remember, I have worked. Work has been my one great joy. Now I stand quite alone in the world, so terribly aimless and forsaken. There is no happiness in working for oneself. Nels, give me somebody and something to work for.
No, no, that can never be. It is simply a woman's romantic notion of self-sacrifice.
Have you ever found me romantic?
Would you really? Tell me, do you know my past?
Yes.
And do you know what people say of me?
Did not you say just now that with me you would have been another man?
I'm sure of it.
Is it too late?
Christina, do you know what you are doing? Yes, you do. I see it in your face. Have you the courage?
I need someone to tend, and your children need a mother. You need me, and I need you. Nils, I believe in your better self. With you, I fear nothing.
Krogstad seizing her hands.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Now I shall make others see me as you do. Ah, I forgot.
Mrs. Linden listening.
Hush, the tarantella. Go, go.
Why? What is it?
Don't you hear the dancing overhead? As soon as that is over, they will be here.
Oh, yes, I'll go. But it's too late now. Of course, you don't know the step I have taken against the Helmers.
Yes, Nils, I do know.
And yet you have the courage to...
I know what lengths despair can drive a man to.
Oh, if only I could undo it.
You can. Your letter is still in the box.
Are you sure?
Yes, but...
Krogstad looking at her searchingly.
Ah, now I understand. You want to save your friend at any price. Say it out. Is that your idea?
Nils, a woman who has once sold herself for the sake of others does not do so again.
I will demand my letter back again.
No, no.
Yes, of course. I'll wait till Helmer comes. I'll tell him to give it back to me, that it's only about my dismissal, that I don't want it read.
No, Nils, you must not recall the letter.
But tell me, wasn't that just why you got me to come here?
Yes, in my first terror. But a day has passed since then, and in that day, I have seen incredible things in this house. Helmer must know everything. There must be an end to this unhappy secret. These two must come to a full understanding. They can't possibly go on with all these shifts and concealments.
Very well, if you like to risk it. But one thing I can do, and at once.
Mrs. Linden listening.
Make haste. Go, go. The dance is over. We are not safe in another moment.
I'll wait for you in the street.
Yes, do. You must take me home.
I was never so happy in all my life.
Krogstad goes by the outer door. The door between the room and hall remains open. Mrs. Linden setting furniture straight and getting her outdoor things together.
What a change. What a change. To have someone to work for, a home to make happy. I shall have to set to work in the earnest. I wish they would come.
Listens.
Ah, here they are. I must get my things on.
Takes bonnet and cloak. Helmer's and Nora's voices are heard outside. A key is turned in the lock, and Helmer drags Nora, almost by force, into the hall. She wears the Italian costume with a large black shawl over it. He is in evening dress and wears a black domino. Nora still struggling with him in the doorway.
No, no, no. I won't go in. I want to go upstairs again. I don't want to leave so early.
But my dearest girl,
Oh, please, please, Torvald. Only 1 hour more.
not 1 minute more. Nora, dear, you know what we agreed. Come in. You're catching cold here.
He leads her gently into room in spite of her resistance.
Good evening.
Christina,
What, Mrs. Linden, you're here so late.
Yes, pardon me. I did so want to see Nora in her costume.
Have you been sitting here waiting for me?
Yes, unfortunately, I came too late. You had already gone upstairs, and I couldn't go away without seeing you.
Helmer taking Nora's shawl off.
Well, then, just look at her. I think she's worth looking at. Isn't she lovely, Mrs. Linden?
Yes, I must say.
Isn't she exquisite? Everyone said so, but she's dreadfully obstinate, dear little creature. Oh, what's to be done with her? Just think, I had to almost force her away.
Oh, Torvald, you'll be sorry someday you didn't let me stop, if only for 1/2 hour.
There, you hear her, Mrs. Linden. She dances her tarantella with wild applause, and well, she deserved it, I must say. Though there was perhaps a little too much nature in her rendering of the idea, that more than was, strictly speaking, artistic. Never mind. She made a great success, and that's the main thing. Ought I let her stop after that to weaken the impression? Not if I know it. I took my sweet little Capri girl, my capricious little Capri girl, I might say, under my arm, a rapid turn around the room, a curtsy on all sides, and as they say in the novels, the lovely apparition vanished. And exit should always be effective, Mrs. Linden, but I can't get Nora to see it. By Jove, it's warm in here.
Throws his domino on chair and opens the door to his room.
What? Well, no light here. Of course, excuse me.
Goes in and lights candles. Nora whispers breathlessly.
Well,
Mrs. Linden softly.
I have spoken to him.
and?
Nora, you must tell your husband everything.
Nora almost voiceless.
I knew it.
You have nothing to fear from Krogstad, but you must speak out.
I shall not speak.
Then the letter will.
Thank you, Christina. Now I know what I have to do. Hush.
Helmer coming back.
Well, Mrs. Linden, have you admired her?
Yes, and now I'll say goodnight.
What, already? Does this knitting belong to you?
Mrs. Linden takes it.
Yes, thanks. I was nearly forgetting it.
Oh, then you do knit.
Yes,
Oh, do you know you ought to embroider instead?
indeed. Why?
Because it's so much prettier. Look now, you hold the embroidery in the left hand so, and then work the needle with the right hand in a long, easy curve, don't you?
Yes, I suppose so.
Oh, but knitting is always ugly. Look now, your arms close to your sides and the needle's going up, down, up, down. There's something Chinese about it. They really gave us splendid champagne tonight.
Well, good night, Nora, and don't be obstinate anymore.
Well said, Mrs. Linden.
Good night, Mr. Helmer.
Going with her to the door.
Good night. Good night. I hope you'll get safely home. I should be glad to, but really you haven't far to go. Good night. Good night.
She goes. Helmer shuts the door after her and comes down again.
Last we got rid of her. She's an awful bore.
Aren't you very tired, Torvald?
No, not in the least.
Nor sleepy?
Not a bit. I feel particularly lively. Oh, but you look tired and sleepy.
Yes, very tired. I shall soon sleep now.
Oh, there. You see, I was right after all, not to let you stop longer.
Oh, everything you do is right.
Helmer kissing her forehead.
Now, my lark is speaking like a reasonable being. Did you notice how jolly Rank was this evening?
Was he? I had no chance of speaking to him.
Well, all right, much, but I haven't seen him in such good spirits for a long time.
Looks at Nora a little, then comes nearer to her.
Splendid to be back in our own home. Be quite alone together. Oh, you enchanting creature.
Don't look at me in that way, Torvald.
Am I not to look at my dearest treasure? At the loveliness that is mine only, wholly and entirely mine?
Nora goes to the other side of the table.
You mustn't say these things to me this evening.
Helmer following.
I see you have the tarantella still in your blood. That makes you all the more enticing. Listen, the other people are going now.
More softly.
Nora, soon the whole house will be still.
I hope so.
Yes, don't you, Nora, darling? When we're amongst strangers, do you know why I speak so little to you and keep so far away and only steal a glance at you now and then? Do you know why I do it? Because I'm fancying that we love each other in secret, and I'm secretly betrothed to you, and no one guesses that anything is between us.
Yes, yes, yes. I know all your thoughts are with me.
And then when we have to go, and I put the shawl about you and your smooth, soft shoulders and this glorious neck of yours, I imagine you are my bride. That our marriage is just over, that I'm bringing you home for the first time to my home, and that I am alone with you for the first time, quite alone with you in your trembling loveliness. All this evening I was longing for you, and you only. When I watched you swaying and whirling in the tarantella, my blood boiled. I couldn't endure it no longer. That's why I made you come home with me so early.
Go now, Torvald. Go away from me. Won't have all this.
Well, what do you mean? I see. You're teasing me. Won't. Am I not your husband?
A knock at the outer door. Nora starts.
Did you hear?
Helmer going toward the hall.
Who's there?
Rank outside.
It's I. May I come in?
Helmer in a low tone, annoyed.
Oh, what could he want?
Aloud.
Wait a moment.
Opens the door.
Come in. It's nice of you to give us a look in.
I thought I heard your voice, and that
Ah.
put it into my head.
Looks round.
Ah, this dear old place. How cozy you two are.
You seem to find it pleasant enough upstairs, too.
Exceedingly. Why not? Why shouldn't one get all one can out of the world? All one can for as long as one can. The wine was splendid.
Especially the champagne.
Did you notice it? It's incredible, the quantity I contrived to get down.
Torvald drank plenty of champagne too.
Did he?
Yes, it always puts him in such spirits.
Well, why shouldn't one have a jolly evening after a well-spent day?
Well spent. Well, I haven't much to boast of.
Rank slapping him on the shoulder.
But I have. Don't you see?
I suppose you've been engaged in a scientific investigation, Dr. Rank?
Quite right.
Oh, bless me, little Nora talking about scientific investigations.
Am I to congratulate you on the result?
By all means,
It was good then?
the best possible, both for doctor and patient certainty.
Nora quickly and searchingly.
Certainty?
Absolute certainty. Wasn't I right to enjoy myself after it?
Yes, quite right, Dr. Rank.
And so say I, provided you don't have to pay for it tomorrow.
Well, in this life, nothing's to be had for nothing.
Dr. Rank, aren't you very fond of masquerades?
Yes, when there are plenty of comical disguises.
Tell me, what shall we two be for our next masquerade?
Little insatiable thinking of your next already.
We two, I'll tell you, you must go as a good fairy.
But what costume would indicate that?
She has simply to wear her everyday dress.
Capital. But don't you know what you yourself will be?
Yes, my dear friend, I am perfectly clear upon that point.
Well,
At the next masquerade, I shall be invisible.
What a comical idea.
There's a big black hat. Even you haven't heard of the invisible hat. It comes down all over you, and then no one can see you.
Helmer with a suppressed smile.
No, you're right there.
But I'm quite forgetting what I came for. Helmer, give me a cigar. One of the dark Havanas.
With greatest pleasure.
Hands case. Rank takes one and cuts the end off.
Thanks.
Nora striking a wax match.
Let me give you a light.
1,000 thanks.
She holds match. He lights his cigar at it.
And now, goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, my dear fellow.
Sleep well, Dr. Rank.
Thanks for the wish.
Wish me the same.
You? Very well. Since you ask me, sleep well, and thanks for the light.
He nods to them both and goes out. Helmer in an undertone.
He's been drinking a good deal.
Nora absently.
I dare say.
Helmer takes his bunch of keys from his pocket and goes into the hall.
Torvald, what are you doing there?
I must empty the letterbox. It's quite full. There will be no room for the newspapers tomorrow morning.
Are you going to work tonight?
Not very likely. What's this? Why, what's this? Someone's been at the lock.
The lock?
Oh, I'm sure of it. What does that mean? Can't think that the servants. Here's a broken hairpin. Nora, it's one of yours.
Nora quickly.
It must have been the children.
Then you must break them of such tricks. Last I've got it open.
Takes contents out and calls into the kitchen.
Alan, just put the hall door lamp out.
He returns with letters in his hand and shuts inner door,
See how they've accumulated.
turning them over.
What's this?
Nora at the window.
The letter. Oh, no, Torvald.
2 visiting cards from Rank.
From
Helmer
Dr.
looking
Rank?
at them.
Dr. Rank. They are on the top. He must have just put them in.
Is there anything on them?
Well, there's a black cross over the name. Look at it. What a horrid idea. It looks just as if he were announcing his own death.
So he is.
Well, do you know anything? Has he told you anything?
Yes. These cards mean that he has taken his last leave of us. He means to shut himself up and die.
Poor fellow. Of course, I knew we couldn't hope to keep him long, but so soon, and then to go and creep into his lair like a wounded animal.
What must be, and the fewer words, the better. Don't you think so, Torvald?
Helmer walking up and down.
He's grown so into our lives. Can't realize that he's gone. He and his sufferings and his loneliness formed a sort of cloudy background to the sunshine of our happiness. Well, perhaps it is best so, at any rate for him.
Stand still.
Perhaps for us too, Nora. Now, we two are thrown entirely upon each other.
Takes her in his arms.
My darling wife. I feel as if I could never hold you close enough. You know, Nora, I often wish some danger might threaten you, that I might risk body and soul and everything for your dear sake.
Nora tears herself from him and says firmly,
Now you shall read your letters, Torvald.
No, not tonight. I want to be with you, sweet wife.
With the thought of your dying friend.
You're right. This is shaken us both. Unloveliness has come between us, thoughts of death and decay. But we must seek to cast them off. Till then, we will remain apart.
Nora, her arms around his neck.
Torvald. Good night. Good night.
Good night, my little bird. Sleep well, Nora. I'll go and read my letters.
He goes into his room and shuts the door. Nora, with wild eyes, gropes about her, seizes Helmer's domino, throws it around her, and whispers quickly, hoarsely, and brokenly.
Never to see him again. Never, never, never.
Throws her shawl over her head.
Never to see the children again. Never, never. Oh, that black, icy water. Oh, that bottomless, if it were only over. Now he has it. He's reading it. Oh, no, 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 not yet. Torvald, goodbye. Goodbye, my little ones.
She is rushing out by the hall. At the same moment, Helmer tears his door open and stands with an open letter in his hand.
Nora,
Nora shrieking.
what is this? Do you know what's in this letter?
Yes, I know. Let me go. Let me pass.
Helmer holds her back.
Where do you want to go?
Nora tries to get free.
You shan't save me, Torvald.
Helmer falling back.
True. Is it true what he writes? No, it cannot be true.
It is true. I have loved you beyond all else in the world.
No silly evasions.
Nora steps nearer him.
Torvald,
Wretched woman, what have you done?
let me go. You shall not save me. You shall not take my guilt upon yourself.
I don't want any melodramatic airs.
Locks the door.
Here, you shall stay and give an account for yourself. Do you understand what you have done? Answer! Do you understand it?
Nora looks at him fixedly and says with a stifling expression.
Yes. Now I begin fully to understand it.
Helmer walking up and down.
What an awful awakening. During all these 8 years, she who was my pride and joy. Hypocrite. A liar, worse, a criminal. Business of it.
Nora is silent and continues to look fixedly at him.
I ought to have foreseen something of the kind. All your father's dishonesty, be silent. I say your father's dishonesty you have inherited. No religion, no morality, no sense of duty. How I am punished for shielding him. I did it for your sake and you reward me like this?
Yes. Like this?
You have destroyed my whole happiness. You've ruined my future. It's a frightful thing to think of. I am in the power of a scoundrel. He can do whatever he pleases with me, demand whatever he chooses, and I must submit. And all this disaster is brought upon me by an unprincipled woman.
When I'm gone, you will be free.
Oh. No fine phrases. Father, too, was always ready with them. What good would it do me if you were gone, as you say? No good in the world. He can publish the story all the same. I might even be suspected of collusion. People will think I was at the bottom of it all and egg you on. For all this, I have you to thank. You, who I have done nothing but pet and spoil during our whole married life. Do you understand what you've done to me?
Nora with cold calmness.
Yes.
It's incredible. I can't grasp it. But we must come to an understanding. Take that shawl off. Take it off, I say! I must try to pacify him in one way or another. The secret must be kept, cost what it may. As for ourselves, we must live on as we have always done, but of course only in the eyes of the world. And of course you will continue to live here, but the children cannot be left in your care. I dare not trust them with you. Oh, to have you say this to one I have loved so tenderly, whom I still... But that must be a thing of the past. Henceforward, there can be no question of happiness, but merely saving the ruins, the shreds. Show of it.
A ring? Helmer starts.
That's so late. It'd be the worst. Can he? Hide yourself, Nora. Say you are ill.
Nora stands motionless. Helmer goes to the door and opens it. Ellen, half-dressed in the hall. Here's a letter for you, ma'am.
Give it to me.
Sees his letter and shuts the door.
Yeah. Yes. From him. You shall not have it. I shall read it.
Read it.
Helmer by the lamp.
I have hardly courage to. We may be lost, both you and I. Yeah. I must know.
Tears the letter hastily open, reads a few lines, looks at an enclosure, a cry of joy.
Nora!
Nora looks interrogatively at him.
Nora, oh, I must read it again. Yes, it is so. I'm saved. Nora, I am saved!
And I?
You too, of course. We are both saved, both of us. Look, here, he sends you back your promissory note. He writes that he regrets and apologizes. That a happy turn in his life. Oh, what a matter he writes. We're saved, Nora. No one can harm you. Oh, Nora, I'll just... No, I won't look at it. The whole thing shall be nothing but a dream to me.
Tears the IOU and both letters in pieces, throws them into the fire and watches them burn.
Yeah. It's gone. He wrote that ever since Christmas Eve. Oh, Nora. They must have been 3 awful days for you.
I fought a hard fight for the last 3 days.
Your agony, you saw no other outlet, but no. We will not think of that horror. We will only rejoice and repeat. It's over, all over. Don't you hear, Nora? You don't seem to grasp it. Yes, it's over. What is this set look on your face? Oh, my poor Nora. Oh, I understand. You can't believe that I've forgiven you, but I have, Nora. I swear it. I have forgiven everything. I know what you did was all for love of me.
That's true.
You loved me as a wife should love her husband. It was only the means you misjudged. But do you think I love you the less for your helplessness? No. Lean on me. I will counsel and guide you. I should be no true man if this very womanly helplessness did not make you doubly dear in my eyes. I mustn't think of the hard thing. You mustn't think of the hard things I said in my first moment of terror when the world seemed to be tumbling about my ears. I have forgiven you, Nora. I swear I have forgiven you.
I thank you for your forgiveness.
Goes out right.
No, stay.
Looks in.
What are you going to do?
Nora inside.
To take off my doll's dress.
Helmer in doorway.
Yes, do, dear. Try to calm down and recover your balance. My scared little songbird, you may rest secure. I have broad wings to shield you. Oh.
Walking up and down near the door.
Oh, how lovely, how cozy our home is, Nora. Here you are safe. Here I can shelter you like a hunted dove, whom I have saved from the claws of the hawk. I shall soon bring your poor beating heart to rest. Believe me, Nora, very soon, tomorrow, all this will seem quite different. Everything will be as before. I shall not need to tell you again that I forgive you. You will feel yourself that it is true. How could I find it in my heart to drive you away or even so much to reproach you? Don't you know a true man's heart, Nora? There's something indescribably sweet and soothing to a man in having forgiven his wife. Honestly, forgiven her from the bottom of his heart. She becomes his property in a double sense. She's as though born again. She has become, so to speak, what once his wife and his child. That is what you shall be to me henceforth, my bewildered, helpless darling. Don't worry about anything, Nora. Only open your heart to me, and I will be both will and conscience to you.
Nora enters, crossing to table in everyday dress.
What's this? Not gone to bed? You've changed your dress.
Yes, Torvald. Now I have changed my dress.
Why now so late?
I shall not sleep tonight.
But Nora, dear.
Nora looking at her watch.
It's not so late yet. Sit down, Torvald. You and I have much to say to each other.
She sits on this one side of the table.
Nora, what does this mean? Your cold, set face.
Sit down. It will take some time. I have much to talk over with you.
Helmer sits at the other side of the table.
You alarm me. I don't understand you.
Oh, that's just it. You don't understand me. And I have never understood you till tonight. No, don't interrupt. Only listen to what I say. We must come to a final settlement, Torvald.
How do you mean?
Nora, after a short silence.
Does not one thing strike you as we sit here?
What should strike me?
We have been married for 8 years. Does it not strike you that this is the first time we two, you and I, man and wife, have talked together seriously?
Seriously? What do you call seriously?
During 8 whole years and more, ever since the day we first met, we have never exchanged one serious word about serious things.
Was I always to trouble you with cares that you could not help me to bear?
I am not talking of cares. I say that we have never yet set ourselves seriously to get to the bottom of anything.
My dear Nora, what have you to do with serious things?
There we have it. You have never understood me. I have had great injustice done me, Torvald, first by father, and then by you.
What? By your father, by me, by us who loved you more than anything else in the world?
Nora shaking her head.
You have never loved me. You only thought it was amusing to be in love with me.
Nora, what a thing to say.
Yes, it is so, Torvald. While I was at home with father, he used to tell me all his opinions, and I held the same opinions. If I had others, I concealed them, because he would not have liked it. He used to call me his doll child and play with me as I played with my dolls. Then I came to live in your house.
What an expression to use about our marriage.
Nora undisturbed.
I mean, I passed from father's hands into yours. You settled everything according to your taste, and I got the same tastes as you, or I pretended to. I don't know which. Both ways, perhaps. When I look back on it now, I seem to have been living here like a beggar, from hand to mouth. I lived by performing tricks for you, Torvald. But you would have it so. You and father have done me a great wrong. It is your fault that my life has been wasted.
Nora, how unreasonable. How ungrateful you are. Haven't you been happy here?
No, never. I thought I was, but I never was.
Not happy.
No,
Not ha-
no. Only Mary. And you have always been so kind to me. But our house has been nothing but a playroom. Here I have been your doll wife. Just as at home, I used to be Papa's doll child. And the children in their turn have been my dolls. I thought it fun when you played with me, just as the children did when I played with them. That has been our marriage, Torvald.
There's some truth in what you say. Exaggerated and overstrained, though it may be, but henceforth it shall be different. Playtime is over. Now comes the time for education.
Whose education? Mine or the children's?
Both, my dear Nora.
Oh, Torvald, you can't teach me to be a fit wife for you.
And you say that.
And I? Am I fit to educate the children?
Nora!
Did you not say yourself a few minutes ago you dared not trust them to me?
The excitement of the moment. Why should you dwell upon that?
No, you're perfectly right. That problem is beyond me. There's another to be solved first. I must try to educate myself. You are not the man to help me in that. I must set about it alone. And that is why I'm now leaving you.
Helmer, jumping up.
What? Do you mean to say?
I must stand quite alone to know myself and my surroundings, so I cannot stay with you.
Nora.
I am going at once. Christina will take me in for tonight.
You're mad. I shall not allow it.
It's no use you're forbidding me anything now. I shall take with me what belongs to me. From you, I will accept nothing, either now or afterwards.
What madness?
Tomorrow I shall go home.
Home?
I mean, to what was my home. It will be easier for me to find some opening there.
Oh, in your blind experience.
I must try to gain experience, Torvald.
For your sake. To forsake your home, your husband, and your children. You don't consider what the world will say?
I can pay no heed to that. I only know that I must do it.
It's exasperating. Can you forsake your holiest duties in this way?
And what do you call my holiest duties?
You asked me that. Your duties to your husband and your children.
I have other duties equally sacred.
Impossible. What duties do you mean?
My duties towards myself.
Before all else, you are a wife and a mother.
That I no longer believe. I think that before all else, I am a human being, just as much as you are. Or at least I will try to become one. I know that most people agree with you, Torvald, and they say so in books. But henceforth, I can't be satisfied with what most people say and what is in books. I must think things out for myself and try to get clear about them.
Are you not clear about your place in your own home? Have you not an infallible guide in questions like these? Have you not religion?
Oh, Torvald, I don't know properly what religion is.
What do you mean?
I know nothing but what our clergyman told me when I was confirmed. He explained that religion was this and that. When I get away from here and stand alone, I will look into that matter too. I will see whether what he taught me is true, or at any rate, whether it's true for me.
Now, this is unheard of. But if religion cannot keep you right, let me appeal to your conscience. I suppose you have some moral feeling. Or answer me. Perhaps you have none.
Well, Torvald, it's not easy to say. I really don't know, and I am all at a sea about these things. I only know that I think quite differently from you about them. I hear, too, that the laws are different from what I thought, but I can't believe that they are right. It appears that a woman has no right to spare her father, to spare her dying father, or to save her husband's life. I don't believe that.
You talk like a child. You don't understand the society in which you live.
No, I don't. But I shall try to. I must make up my mind which is right, society or I.
Nora, you are ill. You're feverish. I almost think you out of your senses.
I have never felt so much clearness and certainty as tonight.
You are clear and certain enough to forsake your husband and children?
Yes, I am.
Then there's only one explanation possible.
What is that?
You no longer love me.
No, that is just it.
Nora! Can you say so?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Torvald, for you have always been so kind to me. But I can't help it. I do not love you any longer.
Elmer keeping his composure with difficulty.
Are you clear and certain on this point too?
Yes, quite. That is why I won't stay here any longer.
You can also make it clear to me how I have forfeited your love.
Yes, I can. It was this evening when the miracle did not happen. For then, I saw you were not the man I had taken you for.
Explain yourself more clearly. I don't understand.
I have waited so patiently all these 8 years. For of course, I saw clearly enough that miracles do not happen every day. When this crushing blow threatened me, I said to myself confidently, now comes the miracle. When Krogstad's letter lay in the box, it never occurred to me that you would think of submitting to that man's conditions. I was convinced that you would say to him, make it known to all the world. And that then...
Well, when I had given my own wife's name up to disgrace and shame,
then I firmly believed that you would come forward, take everything upon yourself and say, I am the guilty one.
Nora!
You mean I would never have accepted such a sacrifice? No, certainly not. But what would my assertions have been worth in opposition to yours? That was the miracle that I had hoped for and dreaded. And it was to hinder that I wanted to die.
I would gladly work for you day and night, Nora, bear sorrow and want for your sake, but no man sacrifices his honor, even for one he loves.
Millions of women have done so.
You think like a silly child.
Very likely. But you neither think nor talk like the man I could share my life with. When your terror was over, not for me, but for yourself, when there was nothing more to fear, then it was to you as though nothing had happened. I was your lark again, your doll, whom you would take twice as much care of in future because she was so weak and fragile. Torvald, in that moment it burst upon me that I had been living here these 8 years with a strange man and had borne him 3 children. Oh, I can't bear to think of it. I could tear myself to pieces.
Elmer sadly.
I see it. I see it. An abyss has opened between us. But Nora, can it ever be filled up?
As I now am, I am no wife for you.
I have strength to become another man.
Perhaps. When your doll is taken away from you.
To part with you? No, Nora, no. I can't grasp the thought.
Nora going into room right.
And more reason for the thing to happen.
She comes back with outdoor things in a small traveling bag, which she puts in a chair.
Nora, not now, but wait until tomorrow.
Nora putting on cloak.
I can't spend the night in a strange man's house.
But can't we live here as brother and sister?
Nora fastening her hat.
You know very well that would not last long. Goodbye, Torvald. No, I won't go to the children. I know they are in better hands than mine. As I now am, I can be nothing to them.
But sometime, Nora, sometime.
How can I tell? I have no idea what will become of me.
You are my wife. Now and always.
Listen, Torvald, when a wife leaves her husband's house, as I am doing, I have heard that in the eyes of the law, he is free from all duties towards her. At any rate, I release you from all duties. You must not feel yourself bound any more than I shall. There must be perfect freedom on both sides. There. There is your ring back. Give me mine.
That too.
That too.
Here it is.
Very well. Now it is all over. Here are the keys. The servants know about everything in the house better than I do. Tomorrow, when I have started, Christina will come to pack up my things. I will have sent them after me.
All over. All over. Nora, will you never think of me again?
Oh, I shall often think of you and the children in this house.
May I write to you, Nora?
No, never. You must not.
But I must send you.
Nothing. Nothing.
I must help you if you need it.
No, I say. I take nothing from strangers.
Nora, can I ever be more than a stranger to you?
Nora taking her traveling bag.
Oh, Torvald. Then the miracle of miracles would have to happen.
What is the miracle of miracles?
Both of us would have to change so that. Oh, Torvald. I no longer believe in miracles.
But I believe we must change so that
That communion between us shall be a marriage. Goodbye.
She goes out. Helmer sinks in a chair by the door with his face in his hands.
Nora. Nora.
He looks round and stands up.
Empty. She's gone.
A hope inspires him.
Miracle of miracles.
From below is heard the reverberation of a heavy door closing. End of play.
And
The end. Well done, guys. Oh my dear Lord. Each of you really carried a lot of like certain parts of the characters and in ways that I was really pleasantly surprised about. For me, this is a play about honesty and why it's so important in relationships. But just for our audience, I will say that this being written in the 1800s put Ibsen under heavy fire, and they actually made him rewrite the play. So it's really interesting.
It was the other one was like a happy ending, basically, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, she stayed with him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it's
the fact that at the time women were so subservient and considered so less than.
Yeah.
yeah, and the line that always gets me is when he's talking about a man would never give honor for someone even someone he loves, and she says millions of women have done so.
Exactly.
So Ibsen was really ahead of his time in terms of the equality he brought with this play.
Well, there's also the line where where Torvald is talking about like he's talking about like consider yourself as or think of yourself as a wife and a mother, and she was like, I need to think of myself as a person.
as a human
Yeah.
being first. And that's,
I always, because I was in I was in a showcase where I had to do the last scene of this play, and I was like, I really don't know what the right thing is with this play. But what I've taken from it since is to look at it as if as almost like a cautionary tale of, you better have yourself together, and you better have convictions, and be as healthy as you can before getting married and having children. Otherwise, it goes to crap. And also, what a marriage should be, and maybe this is just a cautionary tale for like how honesty is the best policy in every relationship. But I mean, you can even see with her relationship with Dr. Rank, as soon as he was honest, she was like, oh, you ruined it, which it should be the exact opposite in relationships, even friendships. And she couldn't even be honest with her father. Go ahead.
I was going to say Ibsen was doubly courageous in that not only did he hold the beliefs of equality, but that then he knowingly published it into a play. So it was twofold, right? It was like he had the opinion and he held it strongly, he held it firmly enough, and then he also expressed it in a literary work, which that was a double risk, right? It was one thing to walk around and talk about such lofty notions as they were thought of then. But then to actually go and publish something and say it out loud,
Yeah.
basically.
And then it must say so
Courageous.
much about the fire he was under that he did write another ending. Because to have so much conviction to write it in the first place, and then to have to rewrite it, I always wondered where
he had to walk it back
happened.
a little bit. Yeah, he had to walk it back a little bit.
Well, it was 19th century cancel culture was what it was.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The
18th.
pressure of bow to the
Without
pressure.
social media.
Was it the 19th century? Because it was the 1800s.
1800s. That's the 19th century.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
I always get that confused.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting about the play is that you can actually, the performances can sway how you think about whether or not each character made good decisions or not. Because you can play, because like Gabe, you played Torvald much more condescending than when I first read the play. I especially in the beginning, I read him as being, I mean, quite sincere, but you portrayed him more as very much talking down to her. And that really changes the perspective up a little bit.
It does. But here's the thing, though. He thinks he's being sincere.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right. In his eyes, right. He thinks he's warm. He doesn't see his folly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So because I was reading that too, and like in the sense that I was getting was like he genuinely believes what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
While yes, it is, the doll's house analogy fits, really well to it at the very end, where he was more in love with the idea of being in love, or in love with being in love, as opposed to loving her, and having the perfect marriage and the perfect house and children and job and all that kind of stuff. So for him, reciting all of these things day in and day out was what was his, like, for him, he was finally living out his dream and his goal, as I'm sure Nora's father was years and years ago, before the play ever happened.
He was checking off boxes, and he thought that one should live by checking off boxes, and then boxes checked, life is good.
And as long as you go through the motions and get it done, then
exactly. But emotions, there was nothing genuine about it. Like, there was no real love for her. It was more of the love of all those notions.
And he didn't realize it until she was gone.
Exactly. And I also think that you did play him very condescendingly, but I thought that was exactly the way he was written.
Yeah.
But then you're very remorseful in your performance. At the end, there's a lot of remorse in your performance, Gabe. And I would almost have thought that there would have been not quite as much remorse. Like, there would have been a lot of indignation still right up until the very, very end, that even at the very end, he wouldn't even have been sad per se, but just sort of in disbelief.
And that's,
but I like how you took it. You made him sad about it. He actually came to reason.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's the only way I've seen it played before. So it's interesting thinking about how it would be played otherwise.
Yeah, and that's just, I was playing it based on the sense that I was getting from the text, because, like, this isn't this isn't a directed show. And so this is, we don't have a lot of the rehearsal period to kind of go over a lot of these things. So these were my instincts as the character, kind of deciding these things. And for me, that moment when she says, when she basically acknowledges, no, I don't love you, that's when the walls came crashing down. And for him, there was almost nothing left to be indignant about. There were no pieces for him to hold on to, because it was all smashed around him. And so he was almost more in shock, I think.
Stripped bare.
Exactly. And so this was him raw and not, and like he was raw and real because that's all he had left. Like, if you ask me.
For Benu, do you think Mrs. Linden was like, what do you think made the change in her to actually want to be with Krogstad, or did you have other thoughts you wanted to share?
I could not, though I played the role of Mrs. Linden, I could not really relate with what she was doing, or some of the things didn't make sense to me. But what I could so relate to was Nora and Torvald.
Mhm.
Because in my life, I was that doll in my father's house, and I was the doll in my ex-husband's house. So for me, this story was like the way Natasha and Gabe were going, I was seeing like my life run through that. It was like,
Wow.
It was so impactful for me. Brooke, I have no idea why I had to join this play with y'all, but now I feel like there should be some reason in this. It was just so impactful. I was just soaking it in the way y'all were going, and I don't know, just I feel so good just to look back how far I have come, how far this writer has written this play in 1800s, and how I don't know. I don't have words to say. I'm just very touched and very honored to be doing this with y'all tonight.
Well, first
Well, I
off,
think it reminds us that it's a very universal theme. I was going to say, it seems unique when we think of it individually in our own lives, but when we look at it more universally, we see how large it is, how many live that experience.
Yes.
like
And going
this.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, just to put some of that in perspective, this was published in 1879 in Copenhagen, Denmark. And it's having this kind, and it's so intimately relatable to you, Benu, in 2021 in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. So that's
good art.
that's
Right,
that's
Brian?
real good out. And Benu, you killed it, by the way. You did
Yeah,
fantastic.
for real.
Yes.
I really
indeed.
like the character of Mrs. Linden. Because if it, I really like her stance for honesty. And I still don't get what she says, where she's like, I've seen crazy things happening in this house for the past few days. And I'm like, what does that mean? But I think you played her well. Go ahead, Darren.
I think that Mrs. Linden is Nora's foil in the sense that Mrs. Linden doesn't actually have the courage to do what Nora did. Mrs. Linden decides to fall back on a criminal just for the sake of having something to do and to have some money to spend. And, there is some sympathy there because she needs money and she knows she needs stuff. But it does almost come as a surprise, even to Krogstad, that she's just like, yeah, you want to move in? But I was going to say too that I think that what the sentiment that's expressed in Act 3 when Nora decides to leave Torvald is very powerful and is very nuanced and meaningful and true. But I think where Ibsen's critics got it wrong was that they took the play as prescriptive of what women ought to do. And like you said, Brooke, it's more of a cautionary tale. It's not saying women should just up and leave their husbands and leave their children and like leave everything. It's what it's saying is you got to work this out. You've got to find the sincerity that's there and treat each other as equals in that sense. So
And also not treat a woman in a way that would make her want to up and leave her
right.
children,
Yeah,
her family. Yeah.
That's a really beautiful sentiment. Back on Mrs. Linden though, it's so funny that you're coming at it from that point of view, Duran, because I'm like, oh, she's really honorable. She really wants to work for others. Like her work is meaningless unless she's working for someone else. And so I was always like, oh, she's pretty honorable. When I first read this play, I was like, oh, she's probably the most honorable person in the play. But then when you think about it, that idea and that feeling has really hindered her, which is interesting.
Well, she does decide for herself. You know, she has just a little bit of power in this play, and she decides that Torvald ought to know what Nora did, and the decision that she makes guarantees it. So that's just a little spiteful. I felt like.
Would you see the character Mrs. as opportunistic?
You could play it either way, because her character is the most interesting, I think, to play, because I think Nora and Torvald, they're both written very specifically, but hers is the one character where you could play it in a way where you're either doing it out of spite or you're doing it because you really believe is the right thing to do. And especially the part where she's offering herself to Kregstad, you could play it either way and it could still work. So it's really interesting. It's almost like 12 Angry Men, where you could play Juror 8 as if he knows the whole time the kid's guilty, or you could play it as if you don't know, you're searching for it and you're just wanting to the best out of everything. It's like either way.
That's why I said it really comes down to the performances. Because I mean, even in Nora's final scene, the way that she leaves could really shed light on whether or not it really seems like the right thing to do. Because if she just completely turns from being the kind of the frivolous character that she starts out as, if she just totally turns and becomes the staunch, first wave feminist, that's going to come across as extremely jarring. But if it's played more sympathetically, which I think that was what you did, Natasha, it was a little more, I'm trying to get you to understand, I'm doing this so that you'll understand what I'm saying, what I feel. Then it starts to look like, okay, I think I can see how this could be a good thing.
Yeah.
So
I think you're really starting to hit it
down to the performance.
It was more self-preservation than vindictiveness.
Yeah. And I wondered about Krogstad too. I wasn't sure. I mean, he's got some pretty nasty lines. He says some pretty nasty things. Like he's describing Nora drowning herself.
Yeah.
And that was out of desperation, wasn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, was it out of desperation, or is he just really actually trying to be mean? Because everyone else wants you to think that he's a criminal, which, he did do something illegal, but he also says to Nora, he says something like, well, is what I did any worse than what you're doing right now? So
yeah, I think he's kind of manipulative.
He is very
I bet he would be doing that out of a way to just try and scare her, like out of desperation is what I meant. But more so, I should have said manipulating.
I think that's right.
Oh, I wanted to say, Gabe, you literally played it like so well when Torvald read the letter. It was just like switch, and that's exactly how it should be played from the script. It's like boom, and we saw this other side. I literally got scared. I'm not even joking. You scared me. I was like oh my god, it's like jarring.
Which part? When I was
oh
yelling
my
at her?
gosh, there was a part where you're like, give it to me and I was like, that was good. That was really good. And Natasha, I think you were really hitting it when you turned from like the the twittering bird to the veil kind of coming off, and you were just kind of real with everything, which is how I think
killed it. You
it's-
killed it, Natasha.
that's what I think is like the best way to play it, yeah, in my opinion.
If I may offer some fair criticism of the play, not performances here, but the play, I think that Ibsen should have had a better the switch with Torvald is great, but the switch with Nora should have been, I think, a little more transitive. I think she switches a little too quick, and you're thinking, wait a second, because
Yeah.
in the first act of the play, it almost seems like this woman doesn't think about anything.
Yeah.
It's just she totally ignores Mrs. Linden's woes by talking about her fancy trip to Italy, and
Yeah.
it's like she's so flighty, and the Ibsen doesn't set her up as a virtuous person. So I think you could potentially play this unless he was like so meta that he thought, okay, well, I want them to decide whether she's good or bad or whatever, or somewhere in between.
Which, given the fact that he's a
I think
playwright,
so.
he very may well have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
so.
he
I
was-
think that's intentional. I think that's left to interpretation by design.
yeah, that very well could be. But I do wish that there was some sort of like, I never saw a clue in the first two acts that she could potentially suddenly make that sort of decision.
I think because it's interesting. I think it could be two reasons. One, because she's playing the part of the doll, and she also doesn't know herself, and she's been playing it so well that she doesn't even know what she thinks, which is what she clearly says and what the case is. But also because I think he's writing it. Oh my gosh, deja vu. This is weird. He's writing it in such a way that we think she's going to kill herself. So I honestly think that all comes down to what's it called? Just him trying to give us like a little, what is she going to do? What is she going to do? I think it's just a writer's, what is it called? I think he's trying to be dramatic and,
melodramatic.
no,
I think too,
suspenseful.
isn't it the prospect of being caught? The jig is up. The letter's going to be read. So I think that's the switch. That all of a sudden she just comes to reality with everything and realizes, okay, the game is over.
That's why this part is so hard to play for actresses. This is why it's one of those lesser known than Shakespeare, of course, and Macbeth. But this is the part of Nora is so coveted because it's so rich and full of places like that where you're like, where does that switch start happening? And you really get to delve into it as the actress. You really come to yourself, and you have to figure it out. And unless the director has some certain way he wants you to do it, that's up to the actress. So that's a lot of play you get to work with. And it's really interesting depending on what you do with it.
Well, as I was reading through it, I felt like, just being very candid here, I used to be in an abusive relationship. And it was not that Torvald is like overtly physically abusive, but her coping mechanism, this is how I read it. Her coping mechanism is to focus on every little good thing she can grasp at. And that is going to be her focus. And so I think that's why in the first act, we get this sense of like, she's kind of like, like fighting. Yeah, because she has been having to live this way for her whole life, really, because she talks about her dad. So the switch for me, when I was reading through it, when she starts to like kind of have this psychotic break at the party, dancing and going crazy, is when she comes home from the party and Torvald is trying to come on to her. And when she's saying like, oh, don't do this to me tonight or whatever the line is, I think that she's really starting to like, even though she's kind of teasing, I think she's starting to be like, okay, no, like things are going to change now kind of thing.
Yeah. With her willpower, I think that's as much as she could do.
I also think there's something to be said in a couple of different subjects that we've crossed over tonight. with the fact, like, just if you look at the title of the play, instead of The Dollhouse, it's called A Doll's House. The focus is on the doll rather than, the dollhouse itself, everything that's in it. It's the title itself is a reference to Nora and who she is and how she feels about herself and where she finds herself. So
Yeah.
I think that right there is that
Well,
can direct you.
I don't say this argumentatively. I simply say it to express that I thought of it as more about the dwelling itself. In other words, a doll's house could also be a victim's prison, a woman's home. So in that way, it's kind of like the place, but not the place physically, but yet the place created by the circumstances. And so, like Natasha said, she identified with the character because the character is in very many ways a victim. She is being victimized by this guy's, oblivious notions about a woman's place and the way he regards her, the way he treats her, and the way he, pats her on her little head kind of treatment, And so she's basically emotionally abused, somewhat mentally abused and treated in this way. And so, a lot of those escapades, if you want to call them that, are really more of her escapes, her copings, her way to deal with the fact that she's in this doll's house that Torvald has basically created. And that's where she has to live. And of course, as it crumbles and falls apart, she finds her way and finds her strength, finds her voice, and makes the call.
It's beautiful.
Multi-layered.
So just as yes, exactly. Thank you guys for doing this. It's been beautiful. I cannot wait to share it with you guys as a recorded project. So thank you guys. Yes, we're still recording. So, first of all, Daily Acting Journal, this came out and it's published by Acting United. So get that on Amazon.
Well done.
Thank you. Oh, let me introduce it. So it's, I never did this. So it goes for every week for the entirety of, usually a typical rehearsal for a play is 6 to 8 weeks. So this journal lasts for approximately 8 weeks. And it is a inspirational and goal, specifically your goal oriented journal for acting. And also every Wednesday and weekend, there are scan codes for you to watch encouraging motivational videos. So this is to help anyone it could work for artists too, because they're pretty in general encouraging things, but they're videos that I've watched and inspired myself with over the years. And this is just to help anyone on the grind who's getting weary of being an artist or an actor and maybe needs to just remember that they're an actor or an artist. So that's what that's for. Also, our campaign for our film that we're producing, which we will need actors for, everybody, not just people in this video. Our campaign to raise money is afoot. So we need to reach 10K total budget to raise money for this film about real stories of women who escaped human trafficking. And we made it into a film to redeem, to raise hope, to educate. And we will be giving all the profits of the film to Wellspring Living, which is a rehabilitation center for women who escaped human trafficking, and Remember New, which prevents and protects children from going into human trafficking by giving them good foster care if their parents cannot take care of them, and prevents human trafficking from happening in certain areas. So look up those two. Our campaign is on Indiegogo. You can also give by looking up our pages on social media. So Acting United and my personal Instagram, I guess. But you can go straight to Indiegogo.com and donate to the film called Elena. So other than that, do you guys have anything else you want to plug in? Anything you're doing? Go buy Miguel's books on Amazon. They're amazing. They're wonderful. His voice you can listen to for hours and fall asleep to.
The final
Wife certainly
installment is
does.
The final installment is still not done. The poor audio engineer is behind the curve on book 7, which is the last book in the series of the Tales of Triletus. So as soon as the wonderful Hunter Elliott, very talented engineer, by the way, he's making magic with the garbage files that I sent him. And as soon as he has them all ready, then the whole thing will be out there. And like I said before, books 1 through 6 are out there. The Tales of Triletus, written by Wally Larson Jr., narrated by yours truly. And the 7th book was really fun to do. It's kind of a nice feeling of tying the whole series off and telling the last bit of the story and putting the baby to bed, sort of thing, you know. And off to do some work with a new coach and start some new stuff, not just audiobooks. We're trying to get into more different niches in the voice acting genre.
Indeed.
Anyway, that's all.
Thanks for having this fun play reading with me, guys, and for everyone who was watching. And I love you guys. You did a fantastic job. You broke your legs sitting down. Who would have thought that's possible? I don't know. Not me. All right. Bye. Stopping recording, but we can still talk.
Me, 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 me.